I started that shift like I always did, coffee in one hand, raincoat still dripping, half a yawn in my throat. It was a Thursday, sometime in November, and the kind of cold that makes your bones hum. The dispatch room was quiet, lit by that pale blue glow from the monitors. It always felt too big at night, like the walls pulled back just enough to make you feel small. It was my third month working the graveyard shift, 911 operator, night shift rotation. Most of my calls were noise complaints, drunk drivers, domestic arguments, the usual things people regret by morning. But I liked the quiet hours. There was a rhythm to the silence, the soft hum of machines, the rain tapping against the windows. It almost felt like the world outside didn't exist. The storm that night was heavy. Sheets of rain moved across the parking lot, and thunder rumbled in the distance, low and long. Every time lightning flashed, the blinds glowed white for a second, and then everything fell back into that thick darkness. I signed in at 10:56. The clock above the whiteboard ticked like it was the only thing alive. My supervisor, Janet, gave me a lazy wave on her way out. "Stay awake, Nate. The storm might bring in a few weird ones tonight." Weird ones. She said it like a joke, but the night shifts always had something off about them. Something in the quiet. Something that made you listen too hard. By 11:40, I'd taken 2 calls. One was a guy who locked himself out in the rain. The other was a woman who thought she saw someone standing in her backyard, but by the time the patrol got there, there was no one. Typical. I sipped cold coffee, rubbed my eyes, and waited for the next ring. That's when it started. The static. It wasn't the kind you hear when a line's bad. It wasn't the usual interference from the storm. It came like a whisper between channels, a faint hiss that seemed to breathe. I thought it was just the headset, maybe the storm messing with reception. I tapped the mic, adjusted the volume. The static stopped. For a while. Then the next call came in. 911, what's your emergency? Nothing, just the hiss again. Louder this time, rising and falling like someone breathing into the phone. "Hello," I said again. "This is 911, can you hear me?" The static faded. For a second I thought I heard something underneath, not words exactly. More like shapes of sound. Wet, broken syllables trying to be words but never making it all the way. Then a click, the line went dead. I sat there staring at the monitor. The call ID showed a string of numbers that didn't make sense, too long to be local, too random to be international. Just a row of digits that shouldn't exist. I wrote it down anyway, habit. After that, the night dragged on. The storm picked up, hammering against the roof so hard I could feel the vibrations through the floor. Every now and then, the lights flickered. I could hear the building creak in the wind. It wasn't until around 1:15 a.m. that the static came back. I was logging a report when the headset crackled. No incoming call, no line open, just static. It hissed softly, like a sigh right next to my ear. I pulled the mic away, frowning. "Janet, you hearing that?" I asked through the intercom. But of course Janet was gone. The night shift was just me now. The sound went quiet again, as if it heard me. I tried to shake it off, maybe interference from the power lines, maybe something in the system. The storm made weird things happen, but deep down I felt something different, something in the tone of it. The static wasn't random. It had rhythm. It paused like it was listening. I told myself to focus, just do the job, log the calls, keep calm. At 1:46 a.m. another call came through. The monitor lit up with a faint green glow. Unknown number, no location data, no caller ID. I hesitated, then answered. 911, what's your emergency? There was a pause. Then a man's voice, quiet, trembling. I think I hit someone. The way he said it made my stomach twist. Not panic, not shock, just empty. "Okay, sir, stay calm," I said, forcing my voice steady. "Can you tell me your location?" "I don't know," he said. It's dark. There's fog everywhere. I'm on Highway 37, I think, near mile marker 20. That stretch of highway, I knew it. Long, rural, barely lit. It cut through the woods east of town, a bad place to crash. Are you injured? I asked. No, he said, his breathing uneven. But she is. I think she's hurt bad. She? The woman I hit. I typed quickly, signaling the state patrol. Okay, sir, an ambulance is on the way. Can you check if she's responsive? He didn't answer. Sir. Then I heard it, not the man. A faint sound through the line, a wet shuffle like feet dragging through mud, a whispering hum underneath his breath. She's standing up now, he said softly. My heart started pounding. Standing up, you said she was injured. She was, he whispered, but she's not anymore. The line filled with static again. Loud this time, sharp, almost metallic. I pulled the headset off for a second, the noise drilling through my skull. When I put it back, he was still there, but his tone had changed. She's looking at me. I swallowed. Okay, sir, listen carefully. I need you to stay in your car, lock the doors. He didn't respond. Instead, I heard a faint tapping through the receiver. Tap, 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 metal against glass. She's at the window, he whispered. My throat went dry. Don't get out of the car, I said. Help is on the way, just stay on the line with me. The static started to rise again, swallowing his words, breaking them into fragments. I could barely make out what he said next. She's saying my name. What's your name, sir? I asked quickly. He didn't answer. The line went silent. For a moment I thought he hung up, but then a sound came through the line. Soft, distant, not the man's voice, a woman's. Low, raspy, whispering something I couldn't quite catch. It sounded close to the receiver, like she was right there. I turned up the volume, heart hammering. The whisper came again, drawn out, wet and broken. It wasn't English. It wasn't any language I knew. Then, just before the line died, she said something that froze every nerve in my body. She whispered my name. Not his, mine. The call disconnected. I just sat there for a long time, staring at the monitor. My name still echoed in my head, drawn out like a breath, Nathan. I checked the call log. The number was gone, not unknown, gone, like it had never been there at all. I called the patrol dispatch, asked if anyone had been sent to Highway 37. They said no reports, no calls, no crashes, nothing. But I know what I heard. I replayed the recording from the call, trying to prove to myself it happened. But when I hit play, there was only static, not even my own voice, just that same faint hiss, breathing softly through the speakers. I listened to it for a long time, until the rain outside started to sound the same, soft, endless whispering against the glass. At some point, I realized my name was still echoing in my head, like it hadn't stopped since the call. I told myself it was just stress, a trick of the mind. But when I took the headset off and turned off the monitor, I swear I could still hear the faint sound of the line, the hiss, the breathing, like someone was waiting on the other end. And sometimes when the storm is heavy and the night is long, I still hear it. Not through the headset, through the walls, through the rain. It calls my name just once. Quiet, careful, like it knows I'm still listening. I didn't want to come back after that night. For 2 days, I kept telling myself I'd call in sick, blame it on the flu. But that's the thing about this job. Once you start missing nights, you start thinking too much. And when you think too much, the voices you hear don't go away. I told myself it was just stress, just one strange call, a glitch in the system, maybe even a prank. That's what I kept repeating as I drove through the rain on my next shift, windshield wipers dragging across the glass like slow heartbeats. Highway 37 ran parallel to the dispatch center. Every time I passed it now, I looked toward the dark stretch of woods where the man said he'd hit someone. There were no tire marks, no reports, nothing in the logs. but I couldn't shake the image, a woman standing in the fog, whispering my name. The rain had been falling since noon, heavy, steady. It made the world small, just my headlights and the wet sound of the road. By the time I parked and walked inside, my coat was soaked through. The night shift room looked exactly the same. Same humming lights, same low ceiling, same empty desks, but somehow it felt colder. I hung up my jacket and sat down at my station. The headset lay coiled beside the keyboard like a sleeping snake. I stared at it for a long time before finally picking it up. Dispatch 911, Operator 22 online. I muttered into the mic. My voice sounded flat in my own ears. The first few hours were quiet. A tree down on a rural road. A woman reporting her husband missing again. Nothing unusual. The kind of noise that fills the time between real emergencies. But the rain didn't stop. It came down harder, hammering against the windows like it wanted in. I could barely hear myself think over it. Around 1:00 a.m., the static came back. It started soft, just a faint hiss in the background. I froze. My eyes went to the monitor. No incoming call, just that low, crawling noise that seemed to breathe through the line. I turned the headset slightly, listening. It rose, fell, and then faded away, like it was moving farther down a hallway. I almost pulled it off, but before I could, the line clicked. An incoming call, unknown number. I took a breath. 911, what's your emergency? For a few seconds, all I heard was the rain. Then, a voice, a man, strained, almost whispering. I think I'm lost. His voice was sharp around the edges, like he was forcing the words through a throat that didn't want to move. Okay, sir, I said, steadying my tone. Can you tell me your name? Daniel. All right, Daniel, where are you right now? A pause, static, then his voice again, lower this time. I don't know. The fog came out of nowhere. I can't see anything. I was driving on the highway 37, and now I can't even tell if I'm still on the road. I typed quickly. Do you see any landmarks, street signs, buildings? Another long silence. Then, no, just white like smoke, but it's cold. My stomach tightened. Are you pulled over? I think so. I can't tell. The engine's still running. I can hear it, but it doesn't sound right. What do you mean? He exhaled, shaky. It's too slow, like it's breathing. The way he said it made my fingers freeze above the keyboard. Daniel, I said carefully, are you sure you're still on the highway? Maybe you drove off into a field or... No, he interrupted. I can feel the lines under the tires, the reflectors. I can feel them moving. I frowned. You feel them? He didn't answer. The static came back, soft but rhythmic now, pulsing in time with his breathing. Daniel, I said again, I need you to stay calm. You're safe in your car, don't get out. Help is coming. He started whispering then, not to me, but to himself. Little fragments I couldn't make out. It's not the road. It's not the road anymore. I tried to cut through. Daniel, listen to me. Someone's walking. His words stopped me cold. Where? I asked quietly. Right in front of the car, he said. His voice had gone thin. I can see her through the fog. She's standing still. Her head's down. She's humming. My throat went dry. Describe her. He hesitated. Then, almost in a whisper, she's wet, like she's been standing in the rain for hours. Her hair stuck to her face. She's barefoot. I wrote every word down, even though my hands were shaking. All right, Daniel, lock your doors, okay? Don't move. The fog might be playing tricks on you. But even as I said it, I didn't believe it. She's getting closer, he breathed. Stay calm, stay in the car. She's saying something, he said. I can't hear it. Turn off your engine, I said quickly. Stay quiet, let me listen. I turned up the volume on my headset. The line hissed, then cleared. And then under the rain, I heard it faint, low, stretched thin through the static. A whisper. It didn't sound like a woman. It didn't sound human. It was the same noise I heard that first night, words that weren't words. A sound like something trying to remember how to speak. "Daniel," I said, forcing the words out. "She's not real. You need to stay in the car." The whisper grew louder, closer. Then Daniel's voice trembling. "She knows you." I froze. "What did you say?" "She said your name." My heart stuttered in my chest. "Daniel, are you sure you heard that right?" "She said Nathan." There was a long pause, then a sound like knuckles tapping against glass. 3 slow knocks. "Daniel," I said again, louder now, "don't open the door." He didn't respond. The static surged. My headset screamed with noise, then went dead. The call log blinked out. No number, no record. I sat there, shaking, staring at the screen until the room stopped spinning. I called the patrol unit again, asked them to send someone down Highway 37. They humored me, checked. Nothing. No car, no driver, not even tire tracks. When the line disconnected, I realized I could still hear something faint under the hum of the machines. A whisper. Not through the headset, not in the room. Inside me. It came soft, careful, like a thought I didn't own. "You shouldn't have answered." I ripped the headset off and threw it on the desk. My pulse was thudding so hard it hurt. I went to the window, stared out at the parking lot. The rain had turned into mist. The streetlights looked like they were floating. For a moment, I thought I saw someone standing by the far fence, a shape, still, head tilted. When I blinked, it was gone. I didn't take another call that night. I just sat there, waiting for sunrise, listening to the hum of the building and the faint drip of water from the ceiling vent. Every few minutes, the radio would crackle, like it was trying to tune itself to something that wasn't there. When I finally stood to leave, the headset was still sitting where I left it. The green indicator light was on. Active line. I stared at it for a long time. Then slowly I picked it up. "Hello," I said quietly. Static. Then faintly, almost tender. "Nathan." And the line went dead. I sat there in the silence, my hand shaking around the receiver, until I realized the whisper hadn't come from the headset at all. It came from the window behind me. I used to think the scariest part of this job was the silence. But I was wrong. It's the echoes. They started a week after that second call. By then, I was barely sleeping. Every time I closed my eyes, I'd see fog pressing against the glass or hear that whisper, my name sliding through the dark. I kept telling myself I was imagining it. Stress, exhaustion, the usual symptoms of burnout. But deep down, I knew something followed me home. I could hear it even when I wasn't wearing the headset anymore. Faint, like it was breathing through the wires in the walls. Sometimes, when I turned off the lights, I'd swear the static from the dispatch line was still there, hiding beneath the hum of the fridge or the buzz of my phone charger. When the new week started, I told myself I'd quit. I even wrote the message to Janet, my supervisor, 3 different times. But every time I looked at that blinking cursor, something in me froze. Like quitting would mean admitting what I'd heard was real. So I went back. It was raining again, of course it was. Same low-ceiling clouds, same dark stretch of highway outside the window. The air inside the dispatch room felt heavier, like it had been waiting for me. I logged in at 10:52 p.m. The system loaded slow, each monitor flickering once before coming to life. My reflection stared back at me in the black glass. My eyes looked hollow. The night started quietly. For 2 hours there were no calls at all. Not one. Just rain, thunder, and the faint hum of the computers. Around midnight, I started to think maybe things were going to be normal again. Then the first call came in. I answered automatically. 911, what's your emergency? There was a long pause. Then a soft crackle, followed by breathing. Not heavy, not panicked, just slow, even breaths. "Hello," I said. The breathing stopped, and then my own voice spoke back. 911, what's your emergency? I froze. My brain didn't even know what to process first. The words, the tone, the rhythm, everything was identical. It was like listening to a recording of myself. "Who is this?" I asked, my voice shaking a little. The line hissed. Then my voice again, only slower this time, distorted at the edges. "Who is this?" I ripped the headset off. For a second, I just sat there, staring at the receiver like it had teeth. I replayed the call log. No number, no origin, no trace. But I know what I heard. I know my own voice. I didn't take another call for the next hour. I just sat there, fingers pressed against my temple, trying to steady my breathing. The storm outside grew worse, lightning flashing, rain pounding the windows in hard bursts. At 1:30, another call came through. I almost didn't answer. My hand hovered over the keyboard for a long time. Finally, I forced myself to pick up. 911, what's your... My voice cut short. Static filled the line again, soft at first, then growing until it almost sounded like whispering. "Hello," I said. The static slowed, then shifted. And out of it came that same voice, my voice. Only this time it was whispering. It wasn't repeating what I said anymore. It was saying something else. "You shouldn't have answered." I pulled the mic away like it burned. My pulse was racing. The line stayed open for 30 more seconds, just the sound of static breathing in my ear, before it cut off completely. I checked the system again. No number, no data, no sign of a call ever happening. I looked up at the clock, 1:37 a.m. Then the radio on the supervisor's desk across the room crackled to life. At first it was just white noise blending with the rain, but then it shifted, faint, clipped words cutting through. "Nathan, line open." My throat went dry. The radio wasn't connected to dispatch. It was for the maintenance team, not incoming calls. It shouldn't have been picking up anything from my line. I stood slowly, every step toward that desk heavier than the last. The radio hissed again. "Nathan, Highway 37. I felt something cold crawl down my spine. Then silence. I turned the volume knob all the way down and unplugged it. But even with the cord out, the faintest whisper kept coming from the speaker, like something still breathing through it. I went back to my chair, sat down, and tried to tell myself I was hallucinating. Maybe lack of sleep, maybe grief or guilt, but the truth was I wasn't sure what I was grieving. At 2:02 a.m. the lights flickered, all of them. For a second the whole room went black. When they came back on, the monitors glitched, each screen flashing the same frozen frame of static. And through the static, a voice. Mine again. But it wasn't live. It was a recording. One from my first night shift, the call with the man on Highway 37. I heard my own words echo through the speakers. "Sir, can you tell me your location?" Then his reply, "She's standing up now." I stood there unable to move as the playback continued. The same call, the same sequence. Only this time something new bled through the background, underneath the man's voice. A whisper. Low female. Not words, just sound. Then, right before the recording ended, my own voice said something I'd never said. "She's behind you." And the screen went dark. Every monitor in the room shut off at once. I sat in the glow of the emergency light, breathing too fast, too shallow. My hands were trembling. The rain outside slowed, not stopped, just changed. It sounded softer now, thicker, like it wasn't hitting the glass but crawling down it. I turned toward the window. The fog outside was back, heavier than before. It pressed against the glass like something alive, shifting and curling with each pulse of the overhead light. And just as I started to move away, I saw it. A reflection that wasn't mine. Behind me, standing at my chair. I turned, but there was nothing. Just my jacket hanging on the backrest, swaying slightly like it had been touched. The air felt wrong, too cold, too still. Then from the headset lying on the desk, I heard my voice again, whispering right against the mic. Answer me. I backed away, my chair rolling across the floor. The whisper came again, louder. Answer me. I didn't touch it, didn't move, just stood there, heart hammering so hard it hurt. Then it spoke one last time, quieter, almost pleading. Don't let her in. The line went dead. For a long time I couldn't move. I didn't know who her was anymore, the woman from the highway or the voice that sounded like me. All I knew was that they both wanted the same thing. To be heard. When the morning shift came in, I pretended nothing happened. I left early, didn't even file a report. But when I got home, I noticed something strange. My answering machine's red light was blinking. I don't even use it, haven't in years. There was one new message. I hit play. Static. Then my voice. 911, what's your emergency? The tape clicked off. No timestamp, no number. Just my own voice, caught in a loop that wouldn't end. And somewhere inside that static, a second voice, waiting for me to answer. I hadn't slept in 3 nights. Every time I closed my eyes, I'd hear it, the faint static, the click of a line connecting that shouldn't exist. Sometimes I'd wake to the sound of my own voice whispering back through the dark. I tried recording it once, left my phone by the bed with the mic on. When I played it back, there was nothing but silence. But I could still feel it. That hum in the air, that invisible vibration that tells you something is close, watching. I started keeping the lights on at night. Even then, I'd see shadows move across the walls, slow and deliberate, like the flicker of a bad signal. By the time my next shift came, I told myself it would be my last. One more night. Then I'd be done with this job, with the calls, with the sound of my own name echoing back at me. It was a Thursday. The rain hadn't stopped since the last storm. It felt heavier this time, thicker, like the air was full of water instead of oxygen. The building was almost empty when I got there. The janitor was mopping the hallway, humming something tuneless under his breath. When I passed him, he stopped and looked up. His eyes were pale and unfocused, like he wasn't really seeing me. Rough weather, I said. He nodded slowly. Phones'll be busy tonight. The way he said it made my stomach twist. When I sat down at my desk, I noticed something new on the monitor. A small gray icon blinking in the corner of the dispatch screen. I'd never seen it before. It read Line 7 active. That didn't make sense. Line 7 had been disconnected years ago. There were only 6 active lines in the entire center. Line 7 had been part of the old system, before digital, before me. Janet told me once it was taken out after an electrical fire. I checked the system diagnostics. It wasn't listed anywhere. I should have logged it as an error, should have called maintenance. But part of me, some dark, stubborn part, wanted to know what would happen if it rang. I didn't have to wait long. At 11:46 p.m., the call light blinked. Line 7 incoming. My breath caught. The headset was already in my hand before I even thought about it. 911, what's your emergency? Static, then faintly breathing. I closed my eyes. Hello. The line hissed like rain against glass. Then a voice, soft, distant, warped by static. Nathan. My hand froze. It was a woman's voice, the same one from Highway 37. I swallowed hard. Who is this? No answer, just the wet sound of static folding in on itself. Where are you calling from? A pause, then barely audible, you know. Every word came out like it was soaked in water, dragging through the signal. I looked at the monitor again. The call origin flashed, No number, no data, nothing. Just one word where the number should have been. Disconnected. I can't help you if you don't tell me where you are, I said, forcing my voice to stay calm. She exhaled into the receiver, long and slow, like a sigh that had been waiting years to leave her lungs. You left me, she said. The room felt smaller suddenly, the air thick and wet. I could hear my own heartbeat through the headset. Who is this? I said again, sharper this time. But the voice changed. It deepened, warped, like multiple voices speaking over each other. You left me on the road. And then laughter. Not loud, not manic, just soft, close, wrong. I yanked the headset off, heart hammering. The line light was still blinking, even though the call had ended. When I put the headset back, the laughter stopped. Silence. Then the faint sound of tires on wet asphalt. A car moving slow. And underneath it, the rhythmic click, click, click of hazard lights. I knew that sound. I'd heard it before on Highway 37. Where are you? I whispered. The voice came back, right against the mic. Behind you. I turned fast, but the room was empty. Just monitors, blinking lights, and the reflection of my own terrified face in the glass. When I looked back at the screen, the line had gone dead. I checked the call log, nothing. Not even an entry for line 7. It was like it had never happened. I stood, packing, running both hands through my hair. My skin felt electric, like every nerve was on fire. I needed air. But when I looked toward the exit, I saw something through the glass wall. The hallway outside was dark, completely dark. The janitor's mop bucket sat in the middle of the floor, but the mop was gone. I told myself not to look too long, not to start imagining shapes in the dark, but then something moved. A slow, dragging shape at the far end of the hallway, a shadow that didn't match the light. It took a step forward. I backed away from the window, my knees almost giving out. The phone rang again. Line 7 incoming. I didn't want to answer, I really didn't. But something in me, curiosity, guilt, whatever it was, forced my hand. When I picked up, the line was quiet. Then a faint voice whispered, "You see me now." My throat locked. "What do you want?" "You heard me first," it said. "Now you'll hear what comes next." The static rose again, swelling until it filled my ears completely. It wasn't random anymore. It was rhythmic. Pulsing, almost like breathing. Then it changed pitch, lower, wet. And beneath it came a sound I will never forget. It was the sound of metal twisting, rubber tearing, glass shattering. A car crash. I heard it all, every second of it. The screech of tires, the crunch of impact, the ragged gasp of someone's last breath. Then silence. The line clicked. And out of that silence came one final sound. It wasn't static. It wasn't a voice. It was something between them, like the echo of a scream trapped in an empty signal. It crawled through the headset, through my skull, through everything I was. I dropped the receiver. The sound didn't stop. Even without the headset, it was still there. In the air, in the wiring, in the bones of the building itself. Every monitor flickered to life at once, each one showing the same image, a stretch of wet asphalt disappearing into fog. And in the distance, barely visible, a woman standing on the shoulder of the road. Her head tilted toward me. The screen flashed once, then went black. The phone went silent. And when I checked the system one last time, line 7 was gone, completely. No trace, no logs, no history. Like it had never existed. But I know what I heard. I know what I saw. Because ever since that night, when I pick up any phone, cell, landline, doesn't matter. There's a faint delay, just a half-second pause before the connection. And in that pause, if I listen close enough, I can still hear her. Still whispering. Still waiting. I've driven Highway 30 7 more times than I can count. It cuts through the valley like a scar, flat, empty, and endless. Most nights it's peaceful, just the hum of the engine and the long white lines slipping by under the headlights. But that night, it felt different. The fog had rolled in heavy and low, swallowing the road whole. The kind that turns the world into a gray blur where the distance between here and nowhere is the same. I was hauling freight from Carson down to Ridgefield. Nothing special, auto parts, a few crates of scrap. The dispatcher said it'd be a quiet night, and it was for a while. The radio played low, some old country song that barely reached past the static. My thermos sat in the cup holder, half empty and cold. The clock on the dash said 12:14 a.m. Then, just past mile marker 83, the fog thickened so bad I could barely see the hood. That's when I saw it, something moving along the shoulder. At first I thought it was just my eyes playing tricks on me. The fog can do that. But no, it was a shape, tall, thin, walking slow against the wind. I eased off the gas, leaned forward, squinting through the haze. Whoever it was, they didn't have a flashlight, didn't even seem to notice my truck. Just moving steady, one step after another. My first thought was maybe their car had broken down. But there weren't any taillights, no hazard flashers. Just this lone figure, half swallowed by the mist. I pulled the CB closer. "Dispatch, you got anyone reported walking 37 tonight?" Static, then a voice crackled through, sharp and distorted. "Negative, nothing on file. You need me to send patrol." I hesitated. "Not yet, might just be a hitcher." "Copy that," dispatch said. "Keep eyes open. Fog's thick as soup out there." The voice faded, and the static lingered longer than usual. I rolled my window down a few inches. Cold air poured in, wet and heavy with that smell, the kind you get before rain mixed with something else. Metallic, like old pennies and damp concrete. The figure was closer now. I could see the outline of a coat, long and dark, flapping in the wind. The person's head was tilted forward, like they were studying the ground with every step. I tapped the horn once, not loud, just enough to get attention. They didn't react. I slowed to a crawl. My headlights washed over them, and for a second I wished I hadn't looked so close. The coat was torn in places, soaked through. The fabric stuck to the figure's back like it had been drenched for hours. The hands hung stiff at their sides, fingers splayed just slightly, like they'd forgotten how to move naturally. When the light hit their face, I swear I saw something off. Not blood, not scars, just wrong. The skin was too pale. The eyes, if that's what they were, looked hollow, reflecting the light but not reacting to it. Like glass marbles, wet and lifeless. I slammed the brakes, heart pounding. The figure didn't flinch, didn't turn, just kept walking. I blinked, rubbed my eyes, looked again. They were gone. The road ahead was empty. No footprints, no movement, just the fog pressing in thicker than before. I sat there for maybe a full minute, the truck idling, my hands gripping the wheel so tight they hurt. Finally, I shifted back into gear. "Must have been a trick of the light," I said out loud, trying to convince myself. "Fog does that, makes you see things." But 5 miles later, my radio cut out. It didn't just fade, it stopped. Dead silence, no static, nothing. I reached over and adjusted the dial, still nothing. Then faintly a sound came through. Not music, not a voice. It was whispering. Soft at first, so quiet I thought it was the wind sneaking through the vents. But then it grew clearer. A voice, low, steady, too calm. It said, "Turn back." I froze. "Turn back," it said again, louder this time, like it was right behind me. I slammed the radio off and kept driving. My chest felt tight. The fog outside looked like it was breathing, swelling and collapsing in slow waves. A minute later, the CB crackled back to life. "Han, you still out there? You copy?" It was dispatch. My voice shook when I answered. Yeah, I'm here." "Thought we lost you. You sound off. You all right?" Yeah, I lied. Radio cut for a sec. Keep it steady. Weather advisory just updated. Fog's thickening around Ridgefield Junction. Stay on main lanes. Copy. I wanted to believe that was the end of it. Just weather, just interference. But then up ahead, through the gray, my headlights caught something again. Another figure. Same build, same slow walk. No way. I hit the brakes, leaned forward, squinting through the windshield. This time I saw more. The road beneath their feet was wet, shining with reflected light, but where they stepped it stayed dry. No splash, no footprints. They turned their head just slightly, and for the first time I saw the side of their face. It looked like mine. Not exactly, but close enough to make my stomach twist. The same shape of the jaw, same nose, the same tired eyes. I blinked and they were gone again. Gone like they were never there. I pulled over, shaking. My hands wouldn't stop trembling. I turned off the engine and sat there listening. The world outside was silent. No crickets, no wind, no rain. Just that endless, smothering quiet. Then faintly, I heard it again. Whispering. This time not from the radio, from outside. It came from the fog, right beyond the glass. 1,000 voices, all murmuring at once, too low to understand. I pressed my forehead against the steering wheel, breathing hard. You're tired, man, I told myself. You've been driving too long. But then the whispering stopped, and something knocked on my door. 3 soft taps. I didn't move, didn't even breathe. Another knock. I turned slowly toward the sound. The window was still fogged up, but behind the glass I could make out a shape. A face, pressed close, too close, just an inch away from mine. Pale skin, hollow eyes, lips that didn't move but somehow formed a word anyway. Turn back. I threw the truck into gear, slammed my foot on the gas, and didn't stop until I hit the next junction 20 miles down. When I finally pulled into the diner lot, I sat there shaking for a long time. My face in the rearview mirror was white, drenched in sweat. The waitress recognized me when I walked in. "Rough night?" she asked, smiling gently. I just nodded. When she poured my coffee, I glanced out the window toward the highway. The fog hadn't followed me, but it hung there on the horizon, waiting. That's when I saw the payphone outside, the diner, start ringing. It was old, cracked, probably hadn't worked in years. But it kept ringing. And I swear, when I looked closer, I saw a figure standing beside it. A tall shape in a dark coat, head tilted down, hand resting on the receiver. I blinked once, and the figure was gone. The phone stopped ringing. The waitress asked if I wanted a refill. I said no, I just wanted to leave. But when I stood to pay, the sound came again, faint, from somewhere deep in the fog outside. A whisper almost too soft to catch. My name. It said my name. I don't know why I stopped. Even now, I keep asking myself that. Why I let my foot off the gas. Why I slowed down when I saw him again standing in that same fog. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe I just needed to prove I wasn't losing my mind. But when the headlights hit him, and I saw his arm lift, slow and stiff like he wasn't sure how to move anymore, it felt like the air in my chest turned to stone. The fog looked thicker than before, swallowing the road whole. I couldn't see more than 20 feet ahead. My radio had been dead for miles. It was just me, the hum of the engine, and that man. He stood by the shoulder, coat hanging heavy and soaked, thumb half raised in the air. I rolled down the window a crack. "You need a ride." His head turned, slow and mechanical. The beam from my headlights cut across his face. His skin looked waxy, too pale, but he nodded. "Yeah," he said. His voice was low, flat, like someone repeating a line they'd practiced too many times. I unlocked the passenger door. It creaked when he opened it. The sound made my stomach knot up. He He climbed in without a word, water dripping off his coat, pooling on the floor mat. The smell hit me next, wet dirt, rust, and something faintly sweet like spoiled fruit. "Where you headed?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. He stared out the windshield. "Just down the road." "Down the road where?" He paused as if the question confused him. "Home." His hands rested in his lap, fingers long and pale. I noticed the nails. They were clean, too clean, but the skin beneath them was dark, almost bruised. I turned back to the road, shifting into gear. "You're lucky I came by. Not a lot of drivers this late." He didn't answer. For a while, neither of us spoke. The only sound was the wipers scraping across the glass and the rain drumming on the roof. After a few miles, I tried again. "You live around here?" He nodded once. "Used to." "Used to." He looked at me finally. His eyes were strange, clouded like he'd been staring through fog for too long. "Haven't been back in a while," he said. Something about the way he said it made my stomach twist. I glanced at the clock. 12:47. The fog outside looked the same no matter how far I drove. The same empty stretch of road. No signs, no lights, no exits. Just the white lines stretching into nowhere. "You know," I said, trying to lighten the air, "I've been driving this route for 15 years. Never seen fog like this." The hitchhiker smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile, more like a twitch. "It gets thick this time of night." "Yeah," I said quietly, "guess so." He turned back to the window. "You ever get lost out here?" "Not really. I know the road pretty well." He chuckled softly. "You only think you do." I frowned. "What's that supposed to mean?" He didn't look at me. "Sometimes the road goes somewhere else when the fog comes." The hair on my arm stood up. I tried to laugh it off. "You saying the fog moves the road?" "Not the road," he said. His voice dropped lower. "The people on it." A cold wave went through me. I kept my eyes forward, watching the white lines slide by. "How far down the road is your stop?" I asked after a while. He didn't answer. I looked over. His seat was empty. For a second my heart stopped. I hit the brakes hard. The truck screeched, tires sliding on the wet asphalt. I turned, scanning the cab, my pulse pounding. "Hey, where'd you go?" "Nothing." I threw the truck into park, shoved the door open, and jumped out. The fog was everywhere, curling around me like smoke. I could barely see the front bumper. "Hello," I shouted. My voice sounded small in the mist. "You out there?" Then faintly, from somewhere behind me, I heard him. "Turn back." It was the same voice as before, calm, cold. I spun around, but there was no one there. "Where are you?" The fog moved like something alive, shapes forming and dissolving in the mist. Then I heard it again, closer. "You shouldn't be here." The voice came from inside the cab. I climbed back in, slamming the door shut. My hands were shaking. The passenger seat was still empty, but the floor mat was wet. Fresh footprints, bare, pale, led from the door to the seat and stopped. My throat went dry. I stared at the dashboard. The engine light was blinking. And the radio, dead for hours, flickered on by itself. Static filled the cab, but underneath it, faintly, there was a voice. It was him. He was whispering something, over and over. "Home, home, home." Then, clear as day, another voice came through the static. "Mine." It said, "Don't pick him up again." The sound made my whole body go cold. I grabbed the wheel and slammed the truck into gear, speeding forward. I didn't care where I was going anymore. I just needed to move. But the road didn't change. No signs, no markers, no end. Just fog and darkness. After what felt like hours, I saw lights ahead, dim, flickering yellow. Relief washed over me. A gas station, finally. I pulled in fast, tires squealing on the wet pavement. The place looked old, abandoned almost. The sign was half lit, letters missing. I climbed out, my boots splashing in the puddles. The fog hung low, heavy as ever. "Hello," I called. No answer. The glass doors of the convenience store were smeared with condensation. When I peered inside, I thought I saw movement, someone standing by the counter. I reached for the door handle, but before I touched it, the reflection in the glass caught my eye. Behind me in the fog was a shape, tall, still watching. I spun around. No one. The parking lot was empty. When I looked back at the reflection, it was still there. The shape hadn't moved. I stepped away from the door, heart hammering. That's when I noticed something else, the road behind me. It was gone. The highway had vanished into the fog, like it had been erased. Only the gas station and the gray void beyond it remained. My breathing quickened. No, no, no. I climbed back into the truck, slamming the door, turning the key. The engine sputtered, coughed, died. I tried again, nothing. And then something moved in the passenger seat. A slow creak, like someone shifting their weight. I didn't look, I couldn't. But I felt it, the air growing cold, the faint smell of wet dirt and rust filling the cab again. Then, in the reflection of the windshield, I saw him, sitting right beside me. His head turned toward me, the skin of his face pale and smooth, eyes empty. He smiled. "You found the road," he said softly. "Now it won't let you go." The fog outside pressed against the glass, thick as concrete. The sound of the rain faded until all that was left was breathing. Not mine. His. Slow, wet. And then nothing. When I finally dared to look again, the seat was empty. The fog began to thin, slowly revealing the highway once more. The truck engine started on its own, low and steady, like it had never stalled at all. I sat there for a long time before I drove. When I finally did, I checked the rearview mirror. The road behind me was clear, but for just a second, just a flicker, I saw someone walking along the shoulder. Same coat, same walk, heading the other way. And I swear, I heard him whisper as I passed, "See you soon." There's something about long drives at night that changes the way you think. After a few hundred miles, your brain starts to blur things together. The hum of the tires, the endless stretch of road, the way the dark feels like it's pressing right up against the glass. That night after the hitchhiker, I told myself I'd imagined it all. I had to. Because the alternative, that he was real, that he'd vanished from my cab without a trace, wasn't something I could carry in my head and still keep driving. The fog had thinned a little, but the rain hadn't stopped. It came down steady, cold, like needles tapping the windshield. The clock on the dash was frozen at 1:17 a.m. I'd noticed it miles back, and no matter how far I drove, it didn't change. The highway felt endless. No towns, no turns, no trucks. Just me. And that damn sound, the wipers dragging across the glass in slow, tired arcs. I adjusted the rearview mirror, not because I needed to, but because I felt watched. It's funny, your instincts always know before your eyes do. At first, there was nothing, just the dim red glow of my taillights fading into the mist. Then, as I squinted, I saw something small and dark in the road behind me. A shape. Looked like a bag, maybe, or a coat someone had dropped. I blinked, leaned closer, and when my eyes focused, it was gone. The road was empty again. I laughed a little under my breath, trying to shake it off. "You're fine," I told myself. "You're just tired." But a few minutes later, when I looked again, the shape was back. Closer this time. I gripped the wheel tighter. "It's just debris," I said. "Something the wind's moving around." Except the wind wasn't blowing. And the shape wasn't still anymore. It was walking. I caught it in the mirror for just a second. A tall, thin figure, moving down the center of the lane, keeping pace with my truck. My stomach dropped. I glanced over my shoulder trying to see it directly, but the road behind me was empty, pitch black. When I looked back at the mirror, there it was again. Closer. I pressed harder on the gas, the engine groaning. The speedometer climbed, 60, 70, 75, but the figure didn't fall behind. It just kept coming. Every instinct told me not to look again, but I couldn't help it. And when I did, I froze. The figure was right behind me now, just standing there, centered in the red glow of the taillights. No face, no features, just an outline dark, tall, shifting slightly in the mist. I jerked the mirror down so I didn't have to see it. My breathing came fast, shallow. When I looked at the mirror again, it was empty. But the reflection of the road looked wrong. The white lines seemed to twist, curling inward like something alive. And then I realized something that made my stomach turn cold. The lights reflecting in the mirror weren't mine anymore. Two small white beams glowed faintly in the distance, far behind me. Headlights. Someone or something was following. I tried to tell myself it was another car, a late trucker like me, but the light never grew brighter, never dimmed, just stayed the same distance away. It felt like no matter how fast I went, it stayed with me. Miles passed, maybe hours. It was hard to tell anymore. The rain blurred everything together into streaks of gray and red. Then, out of nowhere, the radio crackled to life. Static hissed through the speakers, followed by a faint voice. It was my dispatcher. "Nathan, you still on the road?" Hearing another voice almost made me cry. "Yeah," I said, my voice shaking. "Yeah, I'm here." "You sound rough," she said. "Where are you right now?" I don't know," I admitted. "Still on 37, I think. Haven't seen a sign in miles." The line hissed for a moment. "Pull over," she said. "Don't drive any further." I frowned. "What?" "You're not on the map anymore," she whispered. Then the line went dead. The static stayed for a while, then faded, replaced by something else. A sound I'll never forget. Breathing. Slow, wet, close. Like someone sitting just behind me. I reached for the mirror again, slowly, like I was afraid it might notice. And there it was. Not the road this time, not headlights. A face, pale still, half hidden in shadow, just behind the driver's seat. I spun around, nothing. When I looked back at the mirror, the face was gone. But in its place was something worse. My reflection wasn't mine. The me in the mirror looked pale, exhausted, eyes dark and sunken. His mouth was moving, but I wasn't speaking. Then faintly, I heard it. He was whispering. "I told you not to pick him up." I slammed the mirror upward, sending it spinning against the windshield. My whole body was shaking. I tried to focus on the road, but my hands wouldn't stop trembling. The fog looked thicker now, swirling like smoke, the lines on the road bending away from me. Then in the corner of my eye, something moved again. The side mirror this time. A shadow. It slid across the side of the truck, quick and smooth, like it was following just out of sight. I couldn't see what it was, but I could feel it, like a presence pressing against the metal, moving when I moved, stopping when I stopped. The sound of footsteps echoed faintly from somewhere close, not on the pavement, on metal. Like someone was walking along the roof. My throat was dry. "No," I whispered. "No, no, no." I slammed the brakes. The truck screeched to a stop. Silence. I waited, listening. Drip, drip. Water fell from the roof, hitting the windshield in slow, steady drops. And then something shifted in the mirror again. The fog outside parted just enough for me to see the road behind. And standing in the middle of it was the same figure from before. The hitchhiker. Soaked still, head tilted just slightly toward me. I blinked and he was closer. I didn't see him move, he just was. Closer each time I blinked. I jammed the gear shift, slammed my foot down, the tires spinning in the wet. The truck lurched forward, skidding on the slick asphalt before finally catching grip. I didn't look back again, I couldn't. I kept my eyes forward, gripping the wheel so hard my knuckles went white. But even without looking, I knew. He was still there. Every now and then, in the corner of my vision, I'd catch a flicker in the mirror, just enough to see the edge of a coat, the faint glint of eyes that didn't reflect light. And with every mile, the fog grew thicker again. The headlights started to dim, flickering like candles in the wind. Then I noticed something I hadn't before. The road sign ahead. I'd passed it hours ago. Mile 83. The same one. No matter how far I drove, I hadn't gone anywhere. The mirrors started to tremble, vibrating against the glass, humming with some unseen pressure. And through the hum, I heard the whisper again. "Keep driving." My chest felt tight, breath coming fast. "What do you want from me?" I shouted. The voice didn't answer. But in the mirror, my reflection smiled. And it whispered my own voice this time. "You're already here." The fog swallowed the road completely. I couldn't tell where the pavement ended and the sky began. And in that endless gray, for just a moment I saw the truth. The mirrors weren't showing what was behind me. They were showing where I was going. And I didn't want to see it. I reached up, one by one, and tore each mirror off its mount, throwing them to the floor. The last thing I saw before it fell was myself, standing in the middle of the road, smiling back. And then darkness. There's a certain kind of silence that only happens after panic. When your voice gives out, when your thoughts go numb, when you've been afraid for so long that your body just stops reacting. That's where I was. The mirrors were gone, ripped off, tossed onto the floor of the cab like broken memories. The road stretched out ahead, a tunnel of fog and wet asphalt, and I told myself if I just kept driving, I'd find something. A town, a sign, a single human voice that didn't belong to me. But Highway 37 didn't want to let me go. The wipers scraped back and forth, a slow heartbeat. The rain hadn't stopped since I'd left the station hours ago, or what I thought were hours. The clock on the dash still said 1:17 a.m. I don't remember when I started talking to myself. Maybe it was to fill the silence. Maybe it was because I was afraid that if I didn't, someone else would start talking first. "You're fine," I muttered. "Just tired, you'll find an exit soon." But I'd been saying that for what felt like forever. The fog ahead glowed faintly white as my headlights cut through it. Then, suddenly, something dark appeared out of nowhere. A road sign. Finally, I slowed down, squinting through the rain. The words were faded, but I could still read them. Exit 12, Miller's Crossing. A wave of relief washed through me. I didn't care where it went. I just needed to get off this road. The exit ramp curved gently to the right and I followed it, the tires splashing through puddles. The fog seemed lighter here, almost clearer. For the first time in hours I felt hopeful. But when the ramp ended, my stomach dropped. The new road connected right back onto Highway 37. Same cracked asphalt, same faded white lines. And as my headlights swept across another sign, I felt my breath freeze in my chest. Exit 12, Miller's Crossing. I'd taken the exit, but I was back where I started. I gripped the steering wheel tighter. No. I turned the truck around and headed the other way. I drove faster this time, refusing to slow down, refusing to look at anything. I kept expecting to see a gas station, a diner, anything. But the highway just kept repeating itself. Every few miles, the same cracked guardrail, the same half-fallen tree, and eventually the same sign. Exit 12, Miller's Crossing. I must have circled it 3 times before I stopped believing it was real. The rain got heavier, my headlights flickered, my throat felt tight, dry. I started to think about the hitchhiker again. The way he'd stared straight ahead, silent, like he knew something I didn't. What if this was what he meant to do? What if I'd picked him up, and he'd left something behind that I couldn't get rid of? I caught my reflection faintly in the windshield, pale, trembling, eyes wide, and for a second I didn't recognize myself. I slammed the dashboard. There has to be another road. But the highway didn't care. It just went on and on and on. I drove for what felt like hours. Time didn't move. The rain never stopped. Eventually, I saw something up ahead. Headlights, 2 faint orbs cutting through the fog. I honked my horn, flashing my lights. "Hey," I shouted like they could hear me through the glass. "Hey, stop." But the car didn't slow down. As we passed each other, I glanced to the side, desperate to see a face. And for a single, frozen second, I did. It was me, driving the same truck. Eyes wide, mouth open in a silent scream. Then the car was gone, swallowed by fog. My heart hammered in my chest. I gripped the wheel so tight my hands hurt. I didn't want to believe what I'd seen, couldn't. But then, far ahead, the fog thinned again, just enough to see that same road sign. Exit 12, Miller's Crossing. This time, I didn't take it. I just drove past, refusing to look at it again. The fog thickened once more, pressing close against the windows. It felt heavy, almost solid, like I was driving underwater. Then something changed. The hum of the engine faded. The world outside grew still. And from somewhere deep in the fog, I heard a faint sound. A whisper. I turned down the radio, listening. It came again, just under the noise of the rain. "Nathan." My name. Soft, fragile. I swallowed hard. "Who's there?" No answer. Only the rain. Then closer. "You missed your turn." My skin prickled. I looked to the side, out the passenger window, and for a second I swore I saw movement. A shadow. Someone walking alongside the truck, keeping pace. I blinked, leaned closer to the glass, but there was nothing there. Only fog. Still, I could feel it, a presence, breathing, waiting. I pressed harder on the gas, trying to outdrive whatever it was. But the fog got thicker. The engine began to strain, like it was moving through mud. Then suddenly, my headlights hit something large across the road. A barricade. I slammed the brakes, tires skidding. The truck stopped inches away. The barricade was old, rusted, the reflective paint long gone. Beyond it, the road simply ended. No shoulder, no dirt, just black. It looked like the edge of the world. My hands shook as I reached for the gear shift. I didn't want to look, but I did, out the side window into the fog. And there, standing just beyond the barricade, was the hitchhiker. His coat was dripping, his head tilted slightly like before, but this time I could see his face. And it was mine. He smiled, then took one slow step forward. The ground beneath him cracked, and he fell silently into the dark below. I sat there frozen. The engine ticked softly as it cooled. When I finally looked up again, the barricade was gone. The fog had pulled back, revealing another stretch of road ahead. I didn't want to follow it. Every part of me screamed to turn around. But there was nowhere else to go. So I drove. The wheels hummed softly, water spraying off the sides. The road looked new, freshly paved. No cracks, no signs, no exits. And in the distance, faintly glowing through the mist, I saw headlights again. I slowed down, watching them draw closer. But the shape behind the wheel wasn't me this time. It was the hitchhiker. He smiled as we passed, and as his truck vanished into the fog behind me, I realized something I'll never forget. There was never supposed to be an exit. There never was. Highway 37 doesn't go anywhere. It just keeps you. And now, every night when the rain starts falling and the fog rolls in, I hear it again. The whisper from the dark. You missed your turn. And somewhere far behind me, faint but steady, there's another engine running. Another truck. Another me. Still looking for a way out. But on Highway 37, there's no such thing. It always starts the same way. A quiet night, a half-empty cup of coffee, and the low hum of the 911 dispatch room, like the building itself is breathing. People think the job's all chaos, screaming, panic, adrenaline, but most nights it's silence. Just me, a row of flickering monitors, and the steady tick of the clock that never seems to move. I've been on shift since 7 p.m. It was nearing midnight now. Rain had been hitting the windows all evening, soft and rhythmic, almost hypnotic. I'd already handled the usual stuff: drunk drivers, noise complaints, a domestic call that ended before I could even log the details. It was quiet again, too quiet. I remember leaning back in my chair, closing my eyes for just a second, when the line clicked. Incoming call, unknown. No number, no location, just a blank screen. 911, what's your emergency? Static. At first I thought it was a bad connection. It happens sometimes in storms. But then I heard something under the static. A voice. Faint, distant. Help. It was barely there. I leaned forward, pressing the headset closer. Hello, can you hear me? Nothing, just the hiss of interference, like wind rushing through a tunnel. Sir or ma'am, if you can hear me, please speak clearly. What's your emergency? The line crackled again, louder this time. The voice returned, warped and uneven. Please, someone's out there. My stomach tightened. Okay, can you tell me where you are? No answer. Only a faint, muffled sound, like someone breathing too close to the mic. And then something else, a second voice. Low whispering. Too distorted to make out the words. For a moment I thought maybe it was just background noise, a second person nearby. But the tone, it didn't sound alive. It had this depth, like it was being played backward. I muted my mic, checking the caller ID again. Still blank. No data, no signal strength, nothing. That shouldn't have been possible. Hello, I said again. You said someone's out there. Are you in danger? The first voice, shaky, frightened, came back through. He won't stop walking. What do you mean? He's in the road, just standing. He keeps getting closer. A chill crept down my spine. I turned to the other dispatcher on duty, Janet, but her chair was empty. She must have gone for a break. I swallowed hard. Okay, I need you to stay calm. Are you inside your vehicle? No response. Then a faint click. And beneath the static, I heard something new. Footsteps. Slow crunching through wet gravel. The sound was so vivid, so clear, that for a second I thought it was coming from behind me. I actually turned in my chair. Can you still hear me? I whispered. The caller's voice trembled. He's smiling. Who's smiling? The man in the fog. The words hit me like ice. I didn't know why, but something about the way they were said, the flatness of it, didn't sound right. Listen, I said carefully, stay in your car, okay? Don't open the door, help is coming. I just need to know where you are. Highway, the word was almost lost in the distortion. 37. I started typing fast. Highway 37. That stretch of road hadn't been used much in years, ever since the bypass was built. What mile marker are you near? The static rose suddenly, louder, almost shrieking in my ear. I pulled the headset away. When it leveled out, the voice was still there, but something had changed. It wasn't the same person anymore. The breathing was wrong, too steady, too calm. and when it spoke, my skin crawled. "He's behind you now." For a moment, I couldn't breathe. "What did you just say?" No answer, just that faint, wet static. "Turn around." Every instinct I had screamed not to. I told myself it was just a prank, some sick kid messing with dispatch, but still, I couldn't stop glancing at the window beside my desk. The rain was coming down harder now, streaking the glass. I forced myself to focus back on the line. "Whoever this is, you need to stop. This call is being traced." The static hissed, then dropped to silence. I thought it was over. But then I heard a new sound, faint at first, then growing louder. A low hum, metallic. Like radio interference, but with a pattern to it. Almost like breathing through a machine. I stared at the waveform on the screen. It wasn't random noise, it pulsed, a perfect rhythm. And under that mechanical breath, I heard my own voice. Not through the headset, through the recording. Repeating my words from earlier. 911, what's your emergency? I froze. The program shouldn't be playing anything back. I hadn't triggered the recording. Yet there it was, my voice warped, echoing through the static. Then it spoke again. Only this time it wasn't me, not exactly. It sounded like me, but slower, lower. "Behind you now." My heart stopped. I turned toward the glass, expecting to see nothing but my own reflection. But for just a second, just one fleeting second, I saw a figure standing outside. Tall still, right beyond the rain-streaked window. Then the lights flickered, and it was gone. I yanked off the headset, my hands shaking. My pulse thudded so hard I could hear it in my ears. The monitors glowed dimly, each one showing the same thing, the active call still running. The waveform was still pulsing. Even without the headset, I could hear it. A faint voice leaking through the speakers. "You shouldn't have answered." Then the line went dead. Silence. I sat there for a long time, just listening to the rain. The other dispatcher eventually came back from her break, asked if I was okay. I told her I was fine, lied right to her face. When my shift ended, I checked the call logs. There was nothing listed, no timestamp, no recording, no data. It was like the call had never happened. But I still remember the sound. That soft, broken voice. That hum under the static. And sometimes, when it rains at night and I can't sleep, I'll pick up my phone just to check for missed calls. And for half a second, just before the signal connects, I hear it again. My own voice, saying the same words. 911, what's your emergency? Then click. Silence. After that night, I told myself it was just a glitch. A crosswire, a freak storm, some half-dead signal caught in the system. That's what I told myself. But lies like that don't hold up for long. 3 nights later, I was back in the chair. Same station, same flickering lights. The rain hadn't stopped since. It just sat in the air like a second skin, heavy and cold. I didn't want to be there, but it was my job, and bills don't care if you're afraid of the dark. The console hummed softly. The clock read 12:07 a.m. I was staring at my reflection in the glass, wondering when I started looking so tired, when the line lit up again. Incoming call, unknown. Same blank screen, same empty signal field. I hesitated. For a second I just watched it ring, hoping it would stop on its own, but it didn't. So I answered. 911, what's your emergency? Static again. My heart sank. Hello, I tried. A soft click, then breathing. Not panic this time, steady, slow. I waited. Then the voice came through. Hey, Nate. I froze. No one at work called me that. Only one person ever did. Who is this? I asked quietly. You sound tired, the voice said. It wasn't distorted now, it was clear. It was Emily's voice. My sister. But she'd been dead for 3 years. I didn't say anything at first. I just sat there, staring at the monitor, at the sound wave moving gently up and down, as if it were breathing. Who is this? I said again, louder this time. You don't recognize me. Every muscle in my body went stiff. My throat burned. You're not funny, I said. This isn't. I miss you, the voice said. I slammed the mute button, heart pounding. My mind raced. Someone was playing a recording, maybe. Maybe someone hacked the system. But the voice was too natural, too real. Every word had that same softness Emily always had when she talked to me. The same tiny pause she made before saying my name. I unmuted the line. My voice shook. If this is some kind of prank, I swear. I'm not a prank, she said. The tone changed, sharper, almost hurt. I just wanted to talk. I bit down on my lips so hard it drew blood. I remembered that night 3 years ago, driving too fast, rain just like this, phone in my hand, her name flashing on the screen, and then the sound of metal twisting. She never made it home. The guilt had never gone away. It just slept until now. What do you want? I whispered. To tell you it wasn't your fault. I didn't breathe. Every word came out slower, like it was being pulled from the air around me. You were tired, she said. You didn't mean to miss the call. You didn't mean to let me go. My hands trembled. Stop. Silence. Then faintly, you still see me sometimes, don't you? The rain outside tapped harder, like fingers against glass. I stared out the window, half expecting to see her reflection there. Stop it, I said again. But she didn't stop. You look at the passenger seat when you drive, she whispered. You still wait for me to be sitting there. My pulse roared in my ears. You're not her, I said. You can't be. The voice laughed, a sound I hadn't heard in years. You always said that, she murmured. When we were kids, when you'd wake up after a nightmare, you'd say, you can't be real, remember? My throat closed. There was no way anyone else could have known that. I'd never told anyone. The static started to rise again, but underneath it I heard something else. A faint, rhythmic beeping. It took me a second to recognize it. The sound of a hospital monitor. Beep, beep, beep. Each tone sharper than the last. Emily, I said softly, if that's really you. But she interrupted me. Do you remember what I said before it went flat? My stomach twisted. I hadn't been there. I'd missed her last call. I said, she whispered, her voice breaking through the static, don't let it take you too. The sound cut deep into me. What does that mean? I asked. But her tone changed again. Lower, heavier. It's been following you, Nate. My mouth went dry. What has? Silence. Then just barely audible. The man on the road. I felt the air leave my lungs. The man on Highway 37, she said. He finds the ones who answer. I pushed back from the desk, my chair rolling into the wall. How do you know about that? The static cracked, warping her voice until it didn't sound like Emily anymore. He walked behind me, she whispered. Through the rain, through the glass, he smiled at me, Nate. I ripped the headset off, heart slamming in my chest. The line was still open. I could hear the faint hum through the speakers. I wanted to end the call, but my hand wouldn't move. Something inside me, some quiet, shaking part, needed to hear what came next. The voice shifted again. No longer Emily, no longer anyone. Just a sound. A low, wet whisper that almost formed words. Behind you. I turned my head slowly toward the window. Nothing but rain. But for just a second I saw the reflection of a shape, tall, thin, right behind me. When I spun around, the room was empty. I hit end on the console. The line cut. Silence filled the room again, broken only by the sound of rain. I sat there for a long time, trying to convince myself I was just tired, that it was all in my head. But when I checked the system logs later, I saw something that made my blood run cold. Under call origin, there was a number. Emily's number. 3 years disconnected. And in the duration field, it didn't say minutes. It said ongoing. Even now, I can't bring myself to delete it. Because sometimes, when the storm rolls in, when the lights flicker, I see the console glow again. Incoming call, unknown. And for a heartbeat, I swear I hear her whisper, "Hey, Nate. I didn't tell anyone about the last call. I should have, but I didn't. If I had, maybe I wouldn't still hear her voice in the static. Maybe I'd still believe in rules. But when you've heard your dead sister whisper your name through a dead line, rules stop meaning much." That night started quiet. Too quiet. The kind of silence that feels heavy, like it's waiting for something to happen. It was a Tuesday, I think, or maybe Wednesday. They all blurred together by then. I've been on shift for 6 hours, nursing stale coffee and watching the rain smear the streetlights into pale streaks through the glass. Then the line blinked. Incoming call, unknown. I stared at it, my gut twisted. Same number format as before. No origin, no trace. Every part of me screamed, "Don't answer." But I did. 911, what's your emergency? Static. A low hum beneath it, like wind rushing through a tunnel. I waited. And then, a whisper. "Don't hang up." The voice wasn't familiar this time. It was layered, like two people speaking over each other, just a fraction out of sync. "Who is this?" I asked. "Don't hang up," it repeated, "please. Protocol says to end a dead call after 30 seconds. We're supposed to log it and move on." But I didn't. Something about the tone, the fear in it hooked into me. "What's happening?" I said. "Tell me where you are." For a long moment there was nothing but breathing, then faintly, "He's outside." That made my stomach drop. "Who's outside?" The voice cracked, the sound stuttering in and out. "The man on the road." My throat tightened. I'd heard that name before. Emily's voice had said it. "You're breaking up," I said, trying to keep calm. "Are you in a vehicle, a house? Can you describe where you are?" Static swelled, then like a whisper through broken glass. "I'm on Highway 37. I froze. I knew that highway. It was the same one from the first call, the one with the fog, the screams. "Okay," I said, forcing air into my lungs. "Stay on the line with me. I'm going to send someone." But before I could finish, I heard something else. A second voice. Deeper, distant, like it was standing behind the caller. "You shouldn't have answered." I felt every hair on my arms rise. "Who was that?" I demanded. The caller sobbed, a sharp, broken sound. "Please don't hang up, please, he's..." The line hissed violently, cutting her off. Then silence. I thought the call had dropped. But then I heard it, soft, faint breathing. Not from her. From my end. I pulled the headset off and stared at it. The sound was still there, coming through the speakers. Slow, steady, too close. I whispered to myself, "This isn't real." But something deep down knew better. I muted the line and checked the call logs. The ID read the same. Unknown source, active connection. Only this time under duration, there was no time stamp, just one word. Live. And it wouldn't let me end it. I tried closing the line manually. It flickered but stayed on. Then faintly, "Why did you leave her?" The voice was different again. Not the girl, not the man. This one was mine. It was my voice. Perfect pitch. Same hesitation, same breath. I whispered, "Who is this?" "You know who," it answered. My skin went cold. "Where are you?" I asked, though I didn't want to know. "Right here," it said. A clicking sound followed, rhythmic, metallic, like someone tapping on the console from inside the wire. Then my own voice again, softer now. "Don't hang up, please." I gripped the desk until my knuckles ached. This isn't possible. But even as I said it, I remembered something. When I was in training, the old supervisor, Mark, told me about the loop. He said sometimes a call would glitch and play back your own voice from earlier recordings, echoes caught in the system. I'd laughed then. Now it didn't feel funny. Because this wasn't a recording. This voice was responding to me. I whispered, "What do you want?" The reply came instantly. To finish the call. My hand hovered over the power switch. I could cut everything, reboot the whole board. But something in me couldn't do it. It wasn't curiosity, it was something darker. Like the call wasn't just on the line, it was in me. The breathing grew louder, then whispering again. Faint voices overlapped, some crying, some laughing, some repeating the same sentence over and over. "He walks the road when the lights go out. Don't answer, don't answer. Help me." The voices tangled together until I couldn't tell one from another. And beneath them all, I heard my sister. "Nate," she whispered. I clenched my teeth. "You're not real." But she kept talking, her voice buried under the noise. "Don't let him through." Then the deeper voice, the man, spoke again. "You stayed on the line," he said. "You let it open." I swear I felt the temperature in the room drop. "What are you?" I whispered. He laughed. It was a dry, hollow sound that seemed to echo inside my skull. "I am the distance between voices," he said. "The silence between calls." The line popped, and for a second I heard wind. Then footsteps. Slow, wet dragging. They were moving closer. Through the headset, I heard a faint creak like a door opening. My door. I spun around. Nothing, just my reflection in the dark glass. But in the reflection, a shadow moved behind me. I ripped the headset off. The speakers kept hissing, whispering. "Don't hang up," my voice said again, pleading now. I slammed the power switch. The lights flickered. The hum died. Silence. I waited 30 seconds, maybe longer, before breathing again. Then slowly, the system rebooted. The monitors blinked back to life. For a moment, everything was normal. Until I saw it. The call log. Active line connected. Duration 000000. Source, internal console for my station. It was calling itself. And the speaker clicked back on. My own voice came through, whispering, hoarse, broken, terrified. "Don't hang up." I stood there frozen, staring at the console. The voice kept talking, overlapping with mine, repeating everything I said seconds before I said it. Like the line wasn't just echoing me, it was learning me, mirroring me. Finally, I did what I should have done an hour ago. I tore the cable from the wall. The screen went dark. I waited for silence. But instead, from the unplugged headset on the desk, a single whisper. "He's still on the road." I didn't go back the next night. Didn't clock in. Didn't answer my supervisor's calls. But I still hear it sometimes, through the vents, the static of the TV, the faint hum in the wires when the house gets quiet. A voice that sounds just like mine. It only says one thing anymore. Never hang up. I've driven Highway 30 7 more times than I can count. It's a quiet stretch of road, long, lonely, and always just a little too dark. The kind of highway where the rain never really stops, it just changes its rhythm. That night it was coming down steady. Not hard enough to slow me down, but enough that the wipers made that dull, scraping sound every few seconds. It was just me, the hum of the engine, and the occasional flicker of headlights from some distant trucker passing the other way. I'd left Amarillo around dusk, hauling a half-empty trailer bound for Santa Fe. Easy money, easy miles. That's what I told myself anyway. But Highway 37 has this way of changing how time feels. Like it stretches, or folds. By the third hour, I'd passed the same green mile marker sign, 13. Then again, maybe I was just tired. The first time I noticed it, I laughed to myself. Maybe I'd zoned out and missed the others. Happens. But then 20 minutes later, there it was again. Mile 13. I slowed down a little, squinted through the rain-streaked windshield. Same bent corner, same bullet hole in the top right. That's when the unease started. Not panic, just that creeping tension that starts at the base of your neck. I turned the radio on for company. The static filled the cab, thin and sharp, before the old country station came through. A man was singing about lost highways and bad choices. I almost laughed. Another half hour went by. And then, mile 13. I swear to God, it was the same one. The dent, the rust, the chipped paint, identical. I slowed down even more. My headlights washed over the sign as I passed it. For a second, I thought I saw something else, something etched into the metal just beneath the number. Letters faint. I pulled over onto the shoulder, rolled down the window, and leaned out into the rain. The air was cold, wet enough to sting. The letters were there, carved deep, jagged, uneven. He-W-A-L-K-S. I stared at it for a long moment. A truck thundered past in the other lane, throwing mist over my cab. I shut the window, sat back, and tried to shake it off. Truckers see weird stuff all the time. Messages, carvings, strange graffiti. It's just the road playing tricks on your brain. Still, something about it felt off. Too deliberate, too personal. I put the truck back in gear and rolled on. For a while, everything was fine. The road straightened out, and the rain softened to a drizzle. I started to think maybe I was just overthinking it. But then the next sign came. Mile 13. And this one had the same carving. The same words. He-W-A-L-K-S. I felt my hands tighten on the wheel. My chest went tight. The signs weren't just repeating, the world was. I glanced at the clock. The same numbers blinked back at me. 11:13 p.m. I tried to radio dispatch, but all I got was static. A soft whispering kind. Not like broken signal static, it sounded more alive. That was when I started seeing the shapes. At first, just hints in the mirror, blurs that moved wrong, too tall or too still. The headlights from behind would catch something, and then it'd vanish before I could focus. Every instinct told me not to look too long. When I passed the next sign, 13 again, I didn't even slow down. Didn't look, didn't breathe. The rain picked up again, hard now, like it was trying to drown out the sound of my thoughts. But under it, I could have sworn I heard something else. A rhythm that didn't match the tires or the engine. Footsteps. Steady, heavy. Like someone walking just beside the truck, keeping pace. I told myself it was the sound of water hitting the road, or the trailer creaking. But then I heard a voice. Soft, close. You're going in circles. I slammed the brakes. The truck fishtailed slightly on the slick asphalt. The headlights cut through sheets of rain and revealed nothing but the same stretch of highway. Empty, endless. My breath fogged the glass. The mirrors showed nothing. But when I looked ahead, the sign stood there again. Mile 13. And this time, there was something new scratched beneath the words. He walks behind you. I didn't check the mirrors after that. Didn't want to. I kept my eyes fixed on the road and pressed the pedal down. The rain came harder, hammering the windshield. Wipers squealed uselessly. But even through the storm, I could feel it. That pressure, like someone sitting in the passenger seat, just out of view. The air in the cab felt wrong, thicker somehow, heavy with moisture and static. My ears rang, and in the faint reflection of the side window, I saw movement. A shape, tall, dark, walking in perfect rhythm with the truck. Its face hidden, or maybe it didn't have one at all. Every muscle in my body locked. I didn't dare turn my head. I just whispered, "Keep driving." Then, for a split second, lightning. The whole world flashed white. And in that light I saw him. A man, standing in the middle of the highway, maybe 30 feet ahead. Soaked, head tilted, arms hanging loose at his sides. I swerved, tires screamed. The trailer fishtailed again, and I barely caught control before hitting the guardrail. When I looked back, he was gone. Just the rain, the road, and the endless chain of identical mile markers. Mile 13. By then, I was shaking so bad I could barely hold the wheel. My mind kept looping, trying to find some rational thread. Maybe I'd been driving too long. Maybe I was dreaming. But then I noticed something else. The odometer. No matter how far I drove, it hadn't changed. The miles weren't moving. I was stuck. I laughed this dry, broken sound. Highway 37, I said to myself. Guess it doesn't end, huh? Somewhere in the static, the radio crackled back to life. A voice came through, quiet, muffled, but clear enough. "You saw him." I froze. Who is this? No answer, just a faint sound like breathing through a wet cloth. Then, "You shouldn't have looked at the signs." The line went dead. I pulled the truck over again, killed the engine. The only sound left was the rain. When I stepped out, I expected to hear the soft hiss of tires cooling or the hum of the engine. Instead, I heard something else. Footsteps. Behind me. Slow, wet. I turned. No one there. But the rain on the asphalt seemed to bend around something invisible, like there was a shape standing there, displacing it but unseen. That was when I noticed the sign beside the truck. It wasn't mile 13 anymore. It was blank. Just a metal sheet, scratched and scarred, and in the faint reflection of the headlights, my face staring back. Only it wasn't me. The eyes were wrong. Too dark. Too still. I climbed back into the cab and floored it. Didn't care where it led. Didn't care what was waiting. But every few minutes, I glanced out the window, just to make sure no one was walking beside me. And every time I did, I swore I saw a figure in the distance, pacing me, never falling behind, never getting closer. When the dawn finally broke, I was still driving. The rain stopped. The fog lifted. But the sign I passed at sunrise still said mile 13. And when I looked closer, the carving had changed one last time. He walks still. There's something about the road after midnight. It feels alive, like it remembers you. After what happened with the signs, I told myself I'd never take Highway 37 again. But money's money, and Dispatch doesn't care about ghost stories. 2 weeks later, I found myself right back there. Same stretch of blacktop, same drizzle tapping against the windshield, same static hum bleeding from the CB radio. This time I swore I'd keep the music on. Keep my mind busy. Pretend it was just another haul. But when you've seen that stretch of asphalt loop back on itself, when every mile marker reads 13, it's hard to lie to yourself. The rain started up again around midnight. I was somewhere between nowhere and less than that, just a single headlight reflection in the fog. The road signs looked normal now. Mile 24, 25, 26. So I told myself, see, it's fine. The old CB crackled to life right around then. I hadn't even touched it. A voice came through, broken, distant. At first I thought it was just another driver. Breaker 19, it said, the tone low and rough. You out here tonight? I hesitated, then clicked the mic. Yeah, this is Long Haul 7. Who's calling? Static swallowed my words, then faintly. You are. I frowned. What was that? The line hissed, then silence. I laughed it off, tried to push the unease down. CB chatter could get weird out here. Half-drunk truckers, pranksters, sometimes even stray police signals. But something about the way that voice said it, like it was answering a question I hadn't asked yet, made my skin crawl. 15 minutes later, the voice came back. Only this time, it didn't call first. It repeated. My own words. Every one of them. I didn't notice at first. I was talking to myself like I always did, just filling the silence. Complaining about the rain, the coffee, how the dispatcher never updated routes right. And then the radio crackled and echoed it all back. Yeah, this is Long Haul 7, it said in my voice. Who's calling? I froze. The CB light blinked faintly. No other signals on the board. No one else transmitting. I picked up the mic again. Very funny, who's out there? My voice came right back, almost overlapping with mine. Same timing, same tone. Very funny, who's out there? Only, there was something off about the second version. The breath between the words. It wasn't mine. It was too wet. I shut the radio off, just clicked the switch and sat there in silence. The only sound left was the wipers and the engine hum. A few minutes later, I turned it back on. I don't know why. Maybe because silence out here is worse than noise. At least noise feels alive. When it came back, the channel was clear. Just that faint hiss of distance. Then tapping. Like someone drumming on the mic from the other side. 1, 2, 3. Pause. Then again. It matched the rhythm of my turn signal. That's when I started feeling watched again. Like the fog wasn't fog at all. Like it was a veil, and something was pressing against it, trying to see in. I told myself to breathe, to stay focused. I had 6 more hours till the next town. I could make it. But then faintly, the voice came again. And this time it didn't sound distant. It sounded like it was in the cab with me. You're still on 37, it whispered. I nearly dropped the mic. Who is this? I asked. The reply came soft, delayed. You are. The rain slammed harder against the windshield. The headlights flickered. Then from somewhere deep inside the static, I heard another voice, feminine, shaky. Like someone crying. Don't stop, please. I gripped the wheel, staring at the empty road ahead. Who is that? The CB clicked twice, like a response. Then my voice again, flat this time. Don't stop. I killed the radio completely, unplugged it from the port, and tossed it onto the passenger seat. But it didn't matter. The speaker kept hissing, even unplugged. Turn back, the woman's voice said softly. He's still walking. My chest went tight. I whispered. Static flared. For a split second, I heard heavy breathing. Then faintly, behind you. I checked the mirrors so fast, I nearly veered into the shoulder. Nothing. Just endless fog, and the faint reflection of my taillights bleeding red through the mist. But I swear I could feel it. A presence. Heavy, patient. And then the radio, still dead, still unplugged, clicked one last time. Long Haul 7, my voice said through it, calm and steady. Keep driving. I didn't respond. Didn't breathe. just stared straight ahead, white-knuckled on the wheel. For the next hour, nothing else happened. No more voices, no more tapping. Just the road and the rain. Eventually, exhaustion won over fear. My brain went hazy, heavy with caffeine and nerves. Then something impossible happened. The CB light blinked on again. It shouldn't have. There was no power. A new voice came through. This one quieter. Older. You never left, it said. I felt my throat close. What? I croaked. The road doesn't let go. It calls you back. I reached for the mic, but before I could speak, the voice began echoing itself, slipping into distortion until it broke apart into overlapping whispers. 37, 13, don't stop, don't stop. Then through the chaos, one word cut through clear as glass. Look. The headlights flickered again, and out of nowhere the fog split. There, in the middle of the road, stood a figure. Tall still, just like before. He wasn't walking this time. He was waiting. I hit the brakes, tires screaming against wet asphalt. But when the truck stopped, he was gone. Only the fog remained. Then over the radio, my voice spoke again, this time calm, almost kind. You shouldn't have answered. The light on the CB burned bright red, like a warning. Then it blinked out. The rain slowed. The road stretched quiet and endless ahead of me. I sat there for a long time, long enough for the engine's heat to fade, for my breath to fog up the glass. Finally, I turned the key again. The dashboard lights flickered back to life. Every gauge read 0. No fuel. No time. No signal. But the radio came alive once more, faint and clear. A voice, mine again, spoke softly. This is Long Haul 7, it said. Breaker 19, anyone out here tonight? And this time, another voice answered. You are. Then static. When I looked up, the odometer still read the same number it had 2 weeks ago. No miles gained. No distance made. Highway 37 hadn't let me leave. It just went quiet long enough for me to think I had. Now, sometimes at night, when I scan the CB out of habit, I still hear that faint echo. My own voice calling into the dark. And somewhere far away, something answers back. It's strange how quickly a road can start to feel like a person. After a while, Highway 37 didn't feel like a route anymore. It felt like something alive, watching me, breathing with me. I told myself I was done with it. I told myself the radio thing was a glitch, a bad dream stretched across too many miles and too little sleep. But 2 nights later, I was back out there. You ever get that feeling like something wants you back? Like no matter which direction you take, every turn leads you to the same place. Yeah, that's how it started again. The first few hours were quiet. Just the hum of the tires and the steady thump of rain against the cab. I didn't touch the CB this time, didn't even look at it. I kept both hands on the wheel, eyes fixed forward, 1 cup of truck stop coffee keeping me barely awake. It was around 2 a.m. when I saw it. At first, I thought it was just a trick of the lights. The way fog and shadow mix on wet asphalt can make you see things, stray shapes, tree lines, things that look human for half a second. But this wasn't that. The first time I saw it, it was standing right off the shoulder. A figure tall, narrow, dark. It wasn't moving. It was just there. I slowed the truck, squinting through the windshield, but when my high beams caught the spot, there was nothing. Just the highway stretching on. I told myself it was a tree stump, a signpost, something harmless. My mind turned into a man. I drove another mile. Then another. Then I saw it again. This time closer. Walking alongside the truck. Keeping perfect pace with me, right at the edge of my vision. I could see its shape reflected faintly in the passenger side window, but every time I tried to look straight at it, it was gone. I felt my skin crawl. The air in the cab got heavier, thicker. It felt like the air before a storm. I kept my eyes forward, hands gripping the wheel tight enough to make my knuckles ache. Don't look. Just keep driving. But the thing about not looking is, your mind starts filling in the blanks. I could feel it there, beside me, matching my speed, close enough that if I rolled down the window, I could almost reach out and touch it. There was no sound, no footsteps, no wind, just presence. The rain came harder, slashing across the windshield in uneven bursts. I glanced at the mirrors, hopping to distract myself, maybe prove I was imagining it. But in the side mirror, for a split second, I saw something impossible. A hand, pale thin, dragging along the side of the trailer. The fingers left streaks in the water, running down the metal. My stomach twisted. I hit the brakes hard. The truck screeched to a stop, the sound echoing through the fog. I slammed the hazards on and grabbed my flashlight. When I climbed out, the cold hit me like a punch. The rain had slowed to a mist, and the air smelled of wet dirt and diesel. I walked the length of the truck, light sweeping across the side. There were streaks, yeah, but they weren't scratches or fingerprints. They were clean lines, like someone had wiped the water away with careful, deliberate fingers. All 5. I swallowed hard and forced myself to laugh. Maybe I brushed a branch. Maybe the wipers threw something off balance. Sure, that was easier to believe. I climbed back into the cab and locked the doors. But when I sat down, the passenger seat was damp. Not soaked, just damp. Like someone had been sitting there for a while. I stared at it. My breath came out shaky. And then, softly, from the darkness outside, came a sound I'll never forget. Footsteps. Wet shoes against asphalt. Slow, deliberate. Coming closer. I turned off every light in the cab and sat completely still. I could see the reflection of my own headlights stretching down the road, 2 cones of yellow swallowed by fog. Then, just at the edge of the beams, something moved. A figure. Tall. Thin. It stopped at the shoulder, maybe 15 feet from my door. It didn't move closer. Didn't back away. Just stood there. I stared through the windshield, trying to make out a face, but it was too dark, too grainy with rain and shadow. Then the figure tilted its head. Not curious. Not confused. Just watching. I reached for the ignition, hand trembling. The moment the engine rumbled back to life, the figure disappeared, like the fog swallowed it whole. I hit the gas and didn't look back. But the feeling didn't leave. It followed me. Every so often, I'd catch that faint movement in the corner of my eye, the shadow at the shoulder, matching me mile for mile. Sometimes I'd see it in the reflection of the glass. Sometimes just a shape flickering in the mirror, too fast to catch. But it was always there, always watching. Around 3 a.m., I started hearing it too. At first, it was just a faint tapping, then a low scrape, like nails against metal, coming from the passenger side. I forced myself to keep my eyes forward. Every instinct screamed at me to look, but I didn't. Until I heard it whisper. Just one word. Drive. My chest locked up. I glanced sideways, and there it was. Not a reflection. Not a trick. Sitting in the passenger seat. A figure made of nothing but shadow, like smoke shaped into a man. No face, no eyes. Just a shape where a person should be. It turned its head toward me. I didn't see a mouth move, but I heard it. You shouldn't have stopped. I don't remember much after that. I think I screamed. Or maybe I didn't. Maybe I just drove until the horizon bled into dawn. When I finally pulled into a gas station, the sky was gray-blue and empty. I stepped out on shaking legs. There was mud on my door. Footprints leading up to it, one set only. And they stopped right at the passenger side. When I opened that door, the seat was bone dry. No damp, no shadow, nothing. But on the dashboard, written in a streak of water I couldn't explain, were 5 finger marks, same as before, drawn across the glass like a reminder. I wiped them away, but the shape stayed burned in my mind. I don't use that route anymore. I take the longer way, even when it costs me hours. But sometimes, when I'm driving at night through fog or rain, I catch it again. That flicker, that motion at the edge of sight, the shape that never quite disappears. And I know no matter how far I go, how many roads I take, it's still keeping pace. Just outside the light, just beyond the shoulder, waiting for me to slow down again. I always thought running out of gas would be simple. Annoying, sure. Maybe a long walk to the nearest mile marker, a phone call, a tow truck. That's what you picture when you think of being stranded. Not this. Not the silence that feels like it's listening back. It happened 2 nights after I saw the thing at the shoulder. I told myself I wouldn't take Highway 37 again. I meant it. But freight doesn't care about your nerves, and dispatch sure as hell doesn't care about ghost stories. So there I was, back under that same washed-out sky, hauling a load of lumber through the dark. The rain had let up, but fog still clung to the pavement like it didn't want to leave. I remember glancing at the fuel gauge around midnight, 3/4 full. Then again an hour later. Half. That didn't make sense. I hadn't gone far enough for it to drop that much. Another hour, 1/4 tank. And that's when my chest started to tighten. You drive long enough, you get used to your truck, every rattle, every hum. You know when something's off, but this wasn't mechanical. This was something else. I pulled over just for a second. Turned off the engine. When I stepped out, the fog swallowed everything. The sound of the engine faded into that heavy, empty silence. The kind of silence that makes your ears ring. I checked the undercarriage, the fuel line, everything. Nothing leaking, no smell of gas. It was just gone. I got back in, started the truck again. The needle sank to 0. Dead empty. I stared at it, waiting for the dashboard light to blink on. The low fuel warning. That little orange symbol that's supposed to tell you you've got 20 miles left. It didn't light up. The whole dash flickered, like the power in the truck couldn't decide if it was alive or dead. Then the CB hissed to life. Just static. A low, soft hum mixed with something that almost sounded like a voice, far away, buried under the noise. I turned it off. But even with it off, the sound didn't stop. It was still there, faint, whispering under the rain. I pressed my forehead against the steering wheel and took a long, shaking breath. "All right," I said out loud, like the sound of my own voice could break the tension. "We're fine. Nearest station's maybe 10 miles back." I opened my phone. No bars. Of course. I tried the GPS anyway. The little blue dot spun once, twice, then disappeared completely. Just gray. Nothing but Highway 37 stretching on forever. I decided to walk. I grabbed my flashlight and stepped out into the fog. The air smelled different, like wet soil and something faintly metallic, almost like blood. I started walking toward the direction I thought was the last exit. The fog thickened fast, wrapping around the beam of my flashlight until I could barely see a few feet ahead. The highway was silent except for the faint crunch of gravel under my boots. And then from behind me came a sound. Rubber. dragging against wet asphalt. I turned. The truck's headlights were off. It hadn't moved, but the sound kept coming. Slow, rhythmic, like a flat tire rolling just out of sight. I pointed the flashlight toward the shoulder. Nothing, just fog. I told myself to keep walking, don't look back. But it's funny, isn't it? The harder you try not to look, the more your body betrays you. Every few steps, I'd glance over my shoulder. And every time, I'd swear I saw movement in the mist. A shape, a darker patch of fog keeping pace with me, just out of range of the light. The further I walked, the quieter the world became. No wind, no animals, no distant hum of cars. Just my footsteps and the drag of something behind me. After maybe 15 minutes, I realized I hadn't passed anything. No signs, no turns, no lights. Just the same strip of road. I turned in a slow circle. And there it was. My truck, parked on the side of the road, exactly where I'd left it, even though I'd been walking straight the whole time. My pulse spiked. I looked down at the pavement. My boot prints were there, but so were others. A second set. Barefoot. The prints were wet, leading from the passenger side of the truck toward where I stood. And they stopped right behind me. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. Every instinct screamed that if I looked, something would be there, something I didn't want to see. So I ran. I don't know for how long. The fog blurred everything into one endless smear of gray. My lungs burned. My flashlight bounced in my hand, throwing quick flashes of light across the asphalt. But no matter how far I ran, I always ended up back at the truck. Like the road was folding in on itself. When I finally gave up, I leaned against the door, gasping. My hand brushed the handle, and it was warm, like someone had been holding it from the inside. I climbed in and locked the doors. The engine was dead, the dashboard still lifeless. But the fuel gauge, it was at 0 anymore. It was full. I blinked at it, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. Then the headlights flicked on by themselves. They cast 2 weak cones of light into the fog, and there, standing just outside the beam, was a figure. Tall still. It didn't move. I couldn't see a face, just the outline, thin shoulders, long arms. I reached for the ignition, even though I knew it wouldn't work. The key turned anyway. The engine roared to life like it had never died. I slammed the truck into gear and hit the gas. The figure didn't move, didn't flinch, just vanished into the fog as I sped past. The road felt different now, heavier somehow. Every turn looked familiar, but none of them led anywhere new. After what felt like an hour, I finally saw something ahead. A gas station sign, flickering weakly through the mist. My throat tightened with relief. I pulled in fast, heart still hammering, headlights cutting through the fog. But the lot was empty. No cars, no pumps, no building. Just a rusted sign swaying in the wind. The letters were faded, but I could still read them. Exit 13, service station. I'd seen that sign before. Hours ago. Right before the gauge dropped to 0. I looked down at the dashboard again. The needle was falling. Half quarter empty. I shut the engine off and sat there, shaking. Outside, the fog pressed against the windows, thicker than ever. Somewhere in that grayness, I heard it again. Footsteps. Slow dragging, coming closer. I held my breath. They stopped at the driver's side door. Then something tapped the glass, once, twice, 3 times. Soft, rhythmic, like it was testing the sound. I didn't move, didn't even blink. And then through the thin layer of fog on the window, I saw it. A handprint. 5 long fingers pressed flat against the glass. The same shape I'd seen streak down the trailer before. Only this time it didn't fade. The glass started to bend, like the pressure behind it was growing. I scrambled back, heart pounding, fumbling for anything to defend myself with. But before I could move, the handprint slowly pulled away. The fog began to lift, and the road, just like that, was empty again. No footsteps, no sound. Only the steady tick of the dashboard clock. 3:13 a.m. The engine sputtered once, then went quiet for good. And when I finally looked down at the fuel gauge again, it wasn't empty. It wasn't full. It was gone. Just a blank space where it used to be. I don't remember falling asleep, but I must have. When the sun came up, I was parked in front of a different sign. Welcome to Highway 37. The tank was full again. And I swear, when I turned the key this time, the truck started itself. I don't remember sleeping. One moment it was fog and silence. The next, I was waking to sunlight bleeding through the windshield. The world looked washed out, pale, like someone had turned the color down. For a few seconds, I didn't move. I just stared at the highway stretching out in front of me, the cracked asphalt glinting faintly in the morning light. It looked normal. Too normal. My first thought was that I dreamed the whole thing. The fuel, the fog, the hand on the glass, it all felt too heavy, too unreal. But then I looked at the dashboard. Where the fuel gauge should have been, there was still nothing, just an empty slot of black plastic. That's when I knew I hadn't imagined any of it. I reached for my phone again. This time there were bars, 3 full ones. The time read 8:06 a.m. Some part of me relaxed. Daylight meant safety, right? I could finally call for help. The line rang twice before a voice picked up. Highway Patrol, what's your emergency? I swallowed hard. My mouth felt like sandpaper. Yeah, this is Nathan. My truck's dead on Highway 37. I think around mile marker. I stopped. I turned, searching the side of the road. There wasn't a single marker anywhere. Sir, the voice asked. There's no marker, but I'm near exit 13. You'll see me. Big red Freightliner on the shoulder. Copy that, he said. We'll send someone your way. The line went dead. I waited. The fog had thinned to a pale mist that shimmered above the asphalt. Heat waves from the rising sun distorted the distance, making the road bend and twist like it was breathing. After 20 minutes, I saw flashing lights through the haze. A white patrol SUV pulled up behind me, tires crunching on gravel. The officer who stepped out looked normal enough. Short hair, mirrored sunglasses, the kind of polite half-smile they teach you in training. He raised a hand. Morning, you the one who called in? Yeah, truck died overnight. Gauge went out, engine 2. Whole dash is messed up. He nodded, walking up beside me. Mind if I take a look? Go ahead. He leaned into the cab, checking the dash. When he straightened, his expression had shifted, subtle but off. What's the issue? I asked. Your dash looks fine to me. I frowned. What do you mean fine? He stepped aside. I climbed in, looked down, and froze. The fuel gauge was there. Perfect, normal, needle sitting just below full. My stomach dropped. I swear it was gone, I said quietly. Last night it just... He gave me that same polite smile. Probably just a glitch. These rigs can get moody when the temperature drops. No, you don't understand, I said, voice rising. There was fog everywhere. My truck kept dying. The road. Fog, he said, glancing around. Don't get much of that this time of year. He looked up the highway, squinting into the distance. Where exactly did you say you stopped? Right here, I said. Been here since about 3. He nodded slowly. Then he pointed down the road. Thing is, this stretch doesn't have a shoulder wide enough for a rig like yours to park. You sure you weren't pulled off somewhere else? I stared at him. I'm telling you I was here. He tilted his head. Mind if I check your plates? Go ahead. He walked around back while I leaned against the door, trying to steady my breathing. When he didn't come back right away, I called out, "Everything okay?" Silence. I turned and the SUV was gone. Just gone. The stretch of road behind me was empty again, the air still and heavy. I blinked hard, rubbed my eyes. My heart started hammering. Then I saw something in the mirror. Far down the highway, maybe half a mile away, flashing lights. The same SUV parked at an angle. I exhaled shakily and grabbed my flashlight, walking toward it. The air felt thicker the closer I got, like walking through water. My boots stuck slightly to the pavement with each step. When I reached the SUV, the engine was still running. The door hung open. "Officer." No answer. I leaned down to look inside. The seat was empty. Radio crackling faintly. But there was something lying on the passenger seat. A notepad. I picked it up. The page on top had a few words scrawled in messy handwriting. No record, no vehicle, no Nathan Collins. My hand went cold. I turned in a slow circle, scanning the highway. That's when I noticed the landscape had changed. The trees on either side of the road gone, just endless gray fields stretching to the horizon. The sky was too bright, almost white, like sunlight reflecting off snow. My truck wasn't where I left it. I could see the dark grooves of tire marks where it had been, but the rig itself was gone, vanished completely. I stood there, trying to breathe through the panic clawing at my throat. I wasn't dreaming. The heat, the sweat, the pounding in my chest, it was all too real. I yelled into the emptiness, "Where the hell am I?" The sound didn't echo, it just stopped. Then I heard it again. A low hum, faint at first, then rising, vibrating through the ground beneath my boots. I looked back at the SUV. The radio was on now, the same static I'd heard in the truck. But under it, I could hear a voice. "Exit doesn't exist. No record of 37. Do you copy?" The transmission repeated, warped, stuttering. Then it said my name. "Nathan, do you copy?" I dropped the notepad. My hands were shaking. "I'm here," I shouted. "I'm." The radio cut off. Silence again. And then, faintly, from somewhere far behind me, came the sound of tires rolling on wet pavement. Slow, heavy, deliberate. I turned. Through the white glare of the horizon, I saw a shape moving. A truck. My truck. But there was someone sitting in the driver's seat. I couldn't make out his face, but he was looking straight at me. I took a step forward, and the world shifted. Not the air, not the ground, everything. The road bent sideways, like reality itself had folded. One blink, and I was standing right beside the truck again. Door open, engine off. The seat was empty. My reflection stared back at me from the mirror. I whispered, "What's happening to me?" The CB hissed softly. This time, the voice was clear. "You were never here." I froze. "What?" "You were never here, Nathan." The sound was my own voice. I reached for the radio, but before I could touch it, the sunlight flickered, just once, and everything went dark again. When I opened my eyes, I was standing on the shoulder of an ordinary highway. Cars rushed past. No fog, no silence, no Highway 37 signs. I waved at a passing pickup and it slowed. The driver rolled down his window. "You all right, buddy?" he asked. "Yeah," I said, though my voice sounded far away. "Truck broke down, been here since last night." He frowned. "This road doesn't go through 37. "What?" "This is County Route 12. Closest 37's about 30 miles north." I turned slowly. Behind me was a field of tall grass. No tire marks, no rig, no proof I'd ever been there. He must have seen the look on my face because he added, "Need a lift to town." I nodded numbly and climbed in. As we drove away, I looked out the window. The world outside looked fine, too fine. The trees, the sky, the light, it all felt painted on. When we passed a road sign, I leaned closer to read it. White letters on green metal. Exit 13, Highway 37. But there was nothing beneath it. Just a blank space where the arrow should have been. I blinked and the sign was gone. The driver didn't notice. He just kept talking about how weird the fog had been last night. I nodded along, but my eyes stayed fixed on the rearview mirror. Because behind us, through the blur of sunlight, I could see it. My truck, following, no driver inside, just rolling forward, steady and silent, like it had never run out of gas at all. And in that moment, I finally understood. Highway 37 doesn't take you anywhere. It keeps you. And when it's done, it erases you. It was just past 2 in the morning when I clocked out. The dispatch center was dead quiet, the kind of silence that hums in your ears after too many hours of listening to people scream. We had a bad night. A rollover out near mile 37, another domestic call that ended the way they usually do. Heavy breathing, static, and then nothing but the sound of the line cutting out. I was the last one to leave. I always am. There's a sort of peace in being the only one left in that room, the glow of monitors, the faint buzz of the fluorescent lights. For a moment, it feels like control. Like if something bad happens, at least you'll be the first to know. I remember shutting everything down, terminal screens, the routing board, the wall clock's digital glow. The place went dark one light at a time. I slung my jacket over my shoulder, stretched, and was halfway to the door when I heard it. The ringing. At first I thought it was in my head. You get that sometimes, phantom sounds after 12 hours on the job. But it didn't stop. A single line on the board was still flashing red. Line 9. That one shouldn't even have been active. It routes through the backup generator, only used for emergencies during outages. I hesitated. I knew I should have ignored it. Protocol says once the system shuts down, any calls are rerouted to the county line. But something about that sound, it didn't feel right to walk away. So I sat back down, powered on the console, and patched through. 911, what's your emergency? Nothing. Just the faint hiss of static. I tried again. This is county dispatch, do you need assistance? That's when I heard it. A breath. Not just background noise. Someone was there. Hello, I said softer now. Can you hear me? There was movement on the other end. It sounded like someone shifting closer to the receiver, their breath scraping against the mic. Then a voice. Low, warped, like it was being played backward through water. Help me, please. I froze. Where are you? I asked. Can you tell me what's wrong? The static flared, swallowing the words, but underneath it I could hear something else. Faint crying, overlapping voices whispering things I couldn't make out. I turned up the volume. Hello, if you're hurt I can send help. But I need your location. The line crackled again, and this time I caught a word. Highway. It was barely there, stretched and thin. Highway what? Silent. Then, 37. The voice hit me like a punch. Highway 37. That same stretch of road from earlier in the night. The rollover. My throat went dry. You're calling from the accident scene. Is anyone injured? Are you with the driver? The crying grew louder, multiple people, all at once, like the call had opened into a room full of voices. They weren't clear, just fragments, repeating the same words over and over. Help, please help, highway, can't see. I tried tracing the call, but the board wouldn't respond. The signal jumped, flickering between coordinates that made no sense, like the call was coming from everywhere at once. Then under all that noise, I heard something else. A deep rhythmic sound, like tires rolling slowly over wet pavement. I leaned closer, pressing the headset tight against my ear. "Hello?" The crying stopped. The line went dead quiet. For a moment, all I could hear was that slow, steady rolling sound, and my own breathing. Then the voice came back. This time it wasn't warped, it wasn't faint. It was clear, close. It said my name. Nathan. I froze. No one on the other end of that line should have known who I was. My name isn't in any dispatch record, not on outbound calls. "Who is this?" I whispered. The line popped once sharp like feedback, and the voice repeated softer now. "Nathan, it's cold." I swallowed hard, my chest felt tight. "Who are you?" The static crackled again, and for a brief moment I thought I heard someone laughing, distant, hollow, almost mechanical. Then the voice dropped low, distorted again, like something pressing its face against the speaker. "Can you see me?" I jerked the headset off, heart slamming in my chest. The sound still leaked faintly from the console, crackling, whispering my name over and over. I hit end call. Nothing happened. The line kept ringing. I tried again, disconnect. Still nothing. Every light on the board began flickering, one by one, like someone was calling through every channel at once. The sound was unbearable, an ocean of overlapping static, breathing, and faint, muffled words. Then it all stopped. Dead silence. I just sat there staring at the screen. Every light on the board had gone black except line 9, still glowing red. The timestamp said 02:37 a.m. I don't know why, but that number made my stomach drop. I pulled the headset back on. "Hello," I said, voice shaking. There was no answer, just the faint hum of the open line. Then I heard it again. The sound of tires rolling on wet pavement. And something else. A whisper right against the mic. "Don't hang up." My throat tightened. "What?" "If you hang up," it said slowly, "you won't find your way back." I sat there frozen, staring at the wall clock above the board. It had stopped ticking. The second hand was stuck between marks, trembling but not moving. I could hear my own heart, fast and uneven. "I'm calling this in," I muttered, trying to sound firm. "If this is a prank." But the voice cut me off. "Nathan." It wasn't pleading anymore. It was calm, certain. "You've already called." The line went dead. Every light shut off at once, plunging the room into darkness. For a long moment, I just sat there, breathing hard, waiting for my eyes to adjust. The only sound was the hum of the emergency lights kicking in. When they did, I saw something that made my stomach twist. Every monitor in the room, every single one, was lit up again. Same screen. Same message. "Incoming call, Highway 37. I didn't answer it. Not that time. I just walked out, leaving everything behind. The headset, the desk, the faint echo of the ringing that followed me down the hall, no matter how far I went. When I reached the exit door, I glanced back. For just a second, I thought I saw someone sitting at my station. Leaning forward, headset on. Watching me leave. I blinked and the chair was empty. I told myself I imagined it. That the fatigue had caught up, that I was seeing ghosts in the monitors. But the next morning, when I came back from my shift, the supervisor pulled me aside. He said the system logs showed a call placed from my station at 2:37 a.m. No recording, no trace. Just one note in the incident file. Line still active, caller unknown. And beneath that, location, Highway 37. When I came back to work the next night, everything felt off. The lights seemed dimmer, the air colder. Even the old coffee machine sounded quieter than usual. I kept telling myself it was just exhaustion. I hadn't really slept since that call. I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I'd hear that faint ringing. The kind that doesn't come from any phone but from somewhere deep in your head. No one else mentioned anything strange. Dispatchers don't talk about stuff like that anyway. We're trained to bury it, to keep the fear under your tongue and just keep answering the next call. So I did. For a while, everything was normal. Noise, chatter, a few fender benders, one drunk tank transport. Then around 1:48 a.m., line 9 lit up again. That same line. The one that shouldn't even exist anymore. I stared at it for a long time before I answered. My finger hovered over the button, and for a second I thought about walking out. Just standing up, grabbing my keys and leaving the board ringing behind me. But I didn't. I pressed answer. 911, what's your emergency? There was static again, but underneath it a voice. This time it wasn't warped. It wasn't slow or broken like before. It sounded human, familiar. Nathan. The way they said my name, soft, uncertain, froze me. Who is this? A shaky breath, then it's Julie. My heart dropped. Julie lives across the street from me. My neighbor. Sweet old woman, mid-60s. Bakes cookies for the neighborhood kids every Sunday. She watches my house when I'm gone. I've known her for years. And this voice, it was her. The same gentle tone, the same little tremble when she's scared. But how would she even know this number? Julie, I said, are you okay? What's wrong? The static hissed between us. Nathan, she whispered, voice breaking. You need to leave right now. I frowned. What are you talking about? It's outside, she said. It's watching the windows. The way she said it, I could almost picture her, standing by her kitchen curtains, the glow of that yellow lamp behind her. The same one that's always on when I get home. Julie, I said carefully, are you in danger? Is someone outside your house? Her breathing got faster. No, not someone, it's not. Then static swallowed her words. Julie. The line crackled and I caught fragments. The road, it came back. Don't let it before it cut out completely. I stared at the silent receiver, trying to make sense of what I'd just heard. Then out of nowhere, line 9 started ringing again. I answered instantly, Julie. But the voice that spoke wasn't hers anymore. It was deeper, slower, like someone was trying to remember how to talk. Who are you calling? I felt something cold crawl down my neck. Who is this? The line filled with faint, wet breathing. Then that same phrase again, but clearer. Who are you calling? I hung up. My hands were shaking. My heart wouldn't calm down. I checked the system log. The incoming number didn't match Julie's landline or her cell. It wasn't even in the database, just a string of zeros. Still, I couldn't shake the way she said my name. I knew that voice. Every part of me was sure. I sat there for a while, staring at the dark screen, debating what to do. Then finally, I picked up my phone and called her real number. It rang once, twice. Then I heard it. That same static. Only now, it wasn't coming from the console. It was coming from my cell phone. And underneath the static was her voice again. Nathan, don't let it call you. The line went dead. I don't remember hanging up. I don't even remember getting into my car. I just remember the road stretching out ahead of me, Highway 37, and the rain hitting my windshield like a million whispering fingers. Julie's house was dark when I pulled up. No lamp in the window, no porch light. I ran up to the door and knocked. No answer. I checked the windows, dark. The whole house was still. Then I saw the phone. Her cordless sitting on the kitchen counter through the glass door. The little screen blinking, line in use. My stomach twisted. I called out her name again, nothing. And then through the rain, I saw something move. Across the street, in my house, the front light was on. I could see my own living room from where I stood, and there was someone standing by the window. Not moving, just watching. My first thought was that someone had broken in. That's what I wanted to believe. But then, as the lightning flashed, I saw something that made me forget how to breathe. The figure looked like me. Same build, same posture, even the way it held its head slightly tilted, like I do when I'm listening to something far away. I blinked hard and the light flickered out. When it came back, the figure was gone. I ran inside. Everything looked normal, my shoes by the door, the half-empty coffee cup still on the counter. But the house felt wrong, like the air was thicker somehow. Then my home phone started ringing. The sound made me flinch so hard I dropped my keys. I shouldn't have answered. God, I shouldn't have. But I did. Hello. Static. Then my own voice. Why did you leave? It wasn't a recording. It was me, saying words I hadn't spoken yet. What is this? I asked, my throat dry. The line hissed louder and my voice, or whatever it was, kept talking. You heard her. You shouldn't have left. It's awake now. I backed away, heart pounding. Who are you? The voice laughed softly, a short, broken sound, and then whispered, You know who I am. I dropped the phone. It hit the floor and went silent. Outside, thunder rolled across the highway, deep and distant, the kind of sound that shakes through your bones. I tried to calm down, tried to convince myself I was losing it, that this was just exhaustion or a dream that hadn't ended yet. But then I heard it faint from outside the house. My name. Someone calling it, slowly, carefully. Nathan. I walked to the window and looked out. The rain had stopped. And across the street, in the glow of Julie's dark house, I saw her front door hanging open. The wind pushed it back and forth like it was breathing. Something inside me said, don't go. But something else, something deeper, whispered that I needed to know. So I went. The air outside was heavy, wet, and cold. My footsteps echoed too loudly on the pavement. When I reached her porch, I stopped. The door was swinging gently. The house was completely black. Julie, I said, barely above a whisper. From somewhere inside came a faint voice, hers again, trembling. It's still on the line. I swallowed hard. What is? She didn't answer, just another whisper, don't pick it up. Then another voice joined hers. Mine. I told you, it said. You shouldn't have answered. The sound came from deeper inside the house, echoing faintly, like it was coming from a speaker. I turned and ran. I don't remember how I got back to my car. I don't remember driving back to the dispatch center. I just remember the way the rain started again, light at first, then harder, until the whole world sounded like static. When I got back inside, every console light was flashing red. Every single one. And line 9, that dead line, was glowing brightest of all. The monitor displayed a single message. Incoming call, Julie. My hand hovered over the button. Then slowly, the ringing stopped on its own. And from the headset lying on the desk, I heard my own voice whisper, See, you always answer. The light went out, and the room fell completely silent. It's strange how silence can sound louder than anything else. After that night with Julie's call, I started hearing it, the silence. It wasn't empty. It moved, like something was inside it breathing. When I came back to the dispatch center, I told myself I was fine, that I'd imagined everything. But I couldn't shake that uneasy feeling, the way the air seemed to hum, the way the lights flickered every few seconds like they were trying to warn me. I didn't tell anyone what happened. What was I supposed to say? Hey, I think my neighbor called me from nowhere and then I heard myself on the phone. They'd think I'd snapped. Maybe I had. I took the night shift again. The boards lit up, the chatter came and went, but there was a strange rhythm to it all, the phones ringing, the soft clicking of keyboards, the faraway hum of the servers. It almost sounded like breathing. The first knock came around 2:30 a.m. At first, I thought it was the janitor. He usually comes by around that time to empty the trash. But when I turned, the hall behind the glass door was empty. I called out, "Hello." No answer. Just that sound again, 3 slow knocks. Not from the door this time, from somewhere down the hall. I stood up, trying to see past the reflection on the glass. The fluorescent lights buzzed softly, flickering in a rhythm that made the shadows stretch and twist along the walls. For a moment, I thought I saw someone standing at the far end, just a faint outline. But when the light steadied, there was nothing there. I told myself it was just my eyes playing tricks on me. I went back to my console, tried to focus, but my hands wouldn't stop shaking. Every sound felt sharper. Every shadow looked wrong. Then the whispering started. It was faint, just under the noise of the room, like someone talking from another channel. I checked the radio, the phone lines, even the building intercom. Everything was silent. Still, I heard it. Right behind me. "Nathan." My heart stopped. I turned, nothing. I knew that voice. It was mine. I sat back down and tried to breathe, but it didn't feel like I was alone anymore. The hall behind me felt alive, like something was waiting there just out of sight. When the next call came in, I jumped so hard my headset nearly fell off. 911, what's your emergency? Static. My pulse quickened. Hello. The voice on the other end was broken, like someone whispering through water. It's still in the hall. I froze. Who is this? Don't turn around. I did. There was nothing there, just the empty corridor stretching into the dark. But I swear I saw it, a shadow, moving just as I turned. And the thing that terrified me most was that it moved the wrong way. Like it wasn't following the light, like it was alive on its own. The line went dead. I took off the headset, pressed my palms against my face, and tried to calm down. My heart was racing. The room felt too small. That's when the phone rang again. Same line. Line 9. My throat went dry. I didn't want to answer, but I couldn't stop myself. My hand just moved. 911, I said, voice trembling. What's your emergency? For a moment, nothing. Just a faint hum, almost like breathing. Then you shouldn't have turned around. My stomach dropped. Who are you? The voice laughed softly, broken and distant. You know me. Then I heard something else, a faint echo. My own voice repeating after it. Word for word. You know me. I pulled the headset off and slammed the line down. The sound didn't stop. It was coming from everywhere now, the speakers, the intercom, even the static from the monitors. My voice whispering things I didn't understand. Too late now, it's in the walls. I ran to the hallway door. The second I opened it, the lights went out. Every sound vanished, except for the faint ringing of line 9 still coming from the console behind me. Then came the knocks again. 3. Slow. Deliberate. I couldn't tell where they were coming from. They bounced off every wall, every surface, like the building itself was hollow. When the lights flickered back on, I saw it. Something tall, black, and thin standing halfway down the hall. Not a person, it didn't move like one. Its shape flickered between the light and the wall like it was part of both. Its head tilted, and for a split second, I thought I saw my own face stretched across it. Then the lights went out again. I turned and ran. I didn't care where, just away. My footsteps echoed in the dark, and for every step I took, I could hear another behind me, perfectly in sync. When I reached the break room, the lights flickered back on. I spun around, nothing. just that long, empty hallway. But something had changed. The hallway looked longer, much longer, and at the very end where the exit should have been, there was just black. No door, no sign, just black. That's when I noticed my reflection in the vending machine glass. I was breathing hard, pale, eyes wide. But as I stared, my reflection blinked a half second too late. Then it smiled. I stumbled back and hit the counter, sending a coffee cup crashing to the floor. When I looked again, the reflection was normal. But the sound of the knock started again. This time, right behind the vending machine. I ran. Back through the hall, back to the dispatch room, my lungs burning. When I burst through the door, the monitors were flickering with white noise, every phone line flashing red. I could hear voices now, dozens of them, overlapping, whispering in 1,000 tones, all saying the same thing. "You answered." Then everything went silent. The lights came back, steady and bright. The phones stopped flashing. The hum of the servers returned to normal. It was like nothing had happened. Except for one thing. The hallway door was still open. And through it, down that empty corridor, I could see faint footprints on the tile. Wet footprints, leading all the way to my desk. I stood there for a long time, staring at them. They weren't shaped like mine, too long, too narrow. But they stopped right behind my chair. And when I looked at the seat, I saw the headset, the one I'd dropped resting there, perfectly coiled, as if someone had just been sitting in that spot. The monitor flickered, and on the screen, line 9 lit up again. Incoming call unknown. I didn't answer, I couldn't. I just stood there frozen, watching as the line blinked once, twice, then went dark. I thought it was over. But when I turned to leave, I caught a glimpse of the hallway again. And at the far end, near the exit that wasn't supposed to be there, something moved. A shadow stepped forward. And then the lights went out. I didn't go back to work the next night. I told them I was sick, that I needed rest. But the truth was, I didn't trust what I saw anymore. The lights, the whispers, the reflection that smiled when I did. No amount of sleep was going to fix that. At least that's what I thought. When I finally got home, the first thing I did was check my phone. No missed calls, no strange numbers. The silence felt safe again. The walls of my apartment, old, chipped paint, faint smell of coffee, they felt real, solid. I made some tea, sat by the window and tried to breathe. Outside, the city was quiet. The kind of quiet that makes you think everything might be okay. I told myself that what happened at the dispatch center was just exhaustion. My brain glitching out after too many night shifts. That's what I wanted to believe. But around 11 p.m., I started hearing it again. A faint hum, like static. It wasn't loud, just a low, trembling sound that came and went, like someone tuning a radio from another room. I froze. My apartment was small. One bedroom, one living area. I could see everything from where I sat. The sound wasn't coming from the TV, or the speakers, or the phone. It was coming from the walls. I pressed my ear to the plaster. The static grew sharper, closer. Then a voice. "Nathan." It was faint, but I knew it. My voice. I stumbled back, knocking over the mug. Hot tea splashed across the floor, but I barely noticed. The voice came again, muffled but distinct. "Pick up." I looked around, heart pounding. Pick up what? Then I saw it. My home phone, the one I barely used, flashing red. The old landline I kept for emergencies. It was ringing. But the sound wasn't ringing through the air. It was inside my head. Like the noise was vibrating behind my eyes. I shouldn't have answered. God, I should have let it ring. But I didn't. I picked up the receiver, and all I heard was static. "Hello," I whispered. The static cracked, deepened. For a moment I thought I heard breathing. Then, you left the light on. I turned. The lamp near the hallway, the one I hadn't touched since morning, flickered once, then went dark. My chest tightened. Who is this? No answer, just the faint rhythm of something moving through the static, almost like footsteps. Then, from the receiver, "Don't turn around." The same words I'd heard days ago, the ones that came from that phantom call. I dropped the phone and spun anyway. Nothing. Just my apartment, dim and empty. Except for one thing, my bedroom door was open. I never leave it open. And inside it was completely dark. The hallway light flickered once, throwing a pale glow into the room, and for half a second I saw a shape standing near the bed. Tall still. Watching. The light went out. I slammed the door shut, pressed my back against it, breathing hard. I could feel my pulse in my fingertips. I stood there for a long time, listening. The air felt thick, like it was holding its breath. Then tap. A soft knock from the other side. I ran to the kitchen, grabbed the flashlight I kept in the drawer, and shone it at the door. No movement, no sound. But on the wood, I could see fingerprints. Long gray smudges. And they weren't mine. The flashlight started to flicker. I hit it, but the beam dimmed to a dull orange glow. That's when I heard the hum again, louder now, coming from everywhere. The floor, the ceiling, the walls. The sound wasn't random this time. It had a rhythm, like a heartbeat. And in between the static, a voice whispered, soft and almost kind. "Answer the call." I stumbled back, gripping the flashlight tight, shaking my head. No, I'm done. The lights in my apartment flared white, blinding me for a moment. Then they went dark. When my eyes adjusted, I saw something that made my stomach drop. The phone was off the hook, the receiver dangling from the cord. And through it I could hear a faint, distant echo. My voice again. But this time it wasn't whispering. It was pleading. "Please don't hang up." The flashlight died. Everything went black. I felt the air shift, cold, heavy, like something had stepped into the room with me. I couldn't see it, but I could feel it, that weight, that presence pressing against my chest. The voice came again, closer now, as if it was speaking directly into my ear. "You left me on the line too long." I couldn't breathe. My throat felt tight, my body locked in place. I whispered, "What are you?" A pause, then a slow, distorted response. "I was waiting for you to listen." And then the static roared, filling every corner of the apartment. The windows rattled. The dishes in the sink clattered like teeth. I covered my ears, but the sound was inside my head. It wasn't just noise anymore. It was words. Hundreds of voices whispering at once, all overlapping, all saying the same thing. "We heard you." I dropped to my knees, shaking, trying to scream, but no sound came out. My mouth moved, but all that came was static. The noise stopped. For a moment, everything was silent again. Then the phone clicked. Something had hung up. The light from the street outside flickered through the blinds, and in that faint glow, I saw the reflection of my living room window. Someone was standing behind me. I turned, nothing there. But in the reflection, they were still there. Tall, black, standing where I had been seconds ago. I couldn't see their face, just a blur. But their head tilted, the same slow, unnatural tilt from the dispatch hall. And then they lifted their hand. They pointed at the phone. I backed away, shaking my head, whispering, "No, no more." The reflection moved closer. But I wasn't moving. And then the worst part, I realized it wasn't mirroring me anymore. It was watching me. I don't remember when I fell asleep or if I did at all. But when morning came, the apartment was bright and quiet. The phone was back on the hook. The bedroom door was closed again. Everything looked normal. But the lamp in the hallway, the one that had gone out the night before, was still unplugged. And on the wall beside my bed, I saw something written in dust, words traced by a finger. Line 9 never ends. I wiped it away, packed a bag, and left the apartment. But as I was locking the door, my cell phone vibrated in my pocket. Unknown number. I stared at the screen for a long time, watching it buzz, knowing exactly what would happen if I picked up. It rang once, twice, then stopped. A new voicemail appeared. I pressed play. My own voice whispered through the speaker, tired, scared, and shaking. Don't come home tonight. I've been driving for 14 hours straight. The rain hasn't stopped once. They said Highway 37 would shave an hour off my route, but it feels like it's been swallowing hours instead, chewing them up, spitting out pieces I can't count anymore. The wipers drag across the windshield, squeaking in that slow, grating rhythm that starts to sound almost human after a while, like a breath, like something alive. The road is empty, no headlights in the mirror, no taillights ahead, just black asphalt stretching into fog. I keep checking the clock on the dash. It's been 1:13 a.m. for the last 30 minutes. I've tapped it, reset it, checked my phone, same thing. 1:13. The rain doesn't hit like normal rain either. It falls in long, heavy sheets that smear across the glass instead of bouncing, like the sky's leaking oil instead of water. I try the radio again. Static. A soft hiss broken by faint voices too distant to make out. It almost sounds like someone whispering through the rain. I turn it off. It's strange how empty this stretch feels. I've driven this highway before years ago. There should be signs, gas stations, exits, something. But for miles now, all I've seen are the same two things, mile markers and puddles reflecting my headlights. Every marker says the same number, 37. I tell myself I'm just tired, that the markers loop every few miles or that I missed the last one, but deep down I know better. The air feels wrong, too still, like the world's holding its breath. I open the window a crack to get some fresh air, but what comes in doesn't smell like rain. It smells like metal, like wet iron. And beneath that, something sweet. Rotten sweet. My stomach turns. I roll the window back up. For a while, I try to distract myself, counting seconds between lightning flashes, adjusting the vents, anything to keep my mind from wandering. But it does anyway. It drifts to the way my hands tremble a little when I drive at night now, to the reason I started taking long-haul routes in the first place, because sleeping at home was worse, because the silence there wasn't really silent. Out here, I thought I'd find peace. Instead, I found this. The fog thickens. I slow to 30, leaning forward to see the road. My headlights hit the mist, and for a split second, I swear I see a shape move through it. A figure. Then nothing. I blink hard, shake my head, and tell myself it's just the rain, just my eyes. But a few minutes later, I see it again. This time it's closer. Someone walking along the shoulder of the highway, drenched, barely visible through the downpour. I grip the wheel tighter. My first instinct is to stop, but there's something off about the way they move, too slow, too steady, like they're not really walking, like they're being pulled. I pass them without looking directly, pretending not to see. My pulse is pounding so loud I can barely hear the rain anymore. The headlights sweep over the figure, and for a split second, I think I see their face. It's not right. The features are blurred like someone smudged them out. Then they're gone, swallowed by the dark behind me. I glance at the mirror, nothing there. Just endless road. For a while, I drive in silence, trying not to think about it. But then I notice something strange. The road looks exactly the same as it did 5 minutes ago. Same cracked white lines, same curve, same guardrail. Even the same puddle, shaped like a half moon. I've been looping. I slow down and check the odometer. It hasn't moved. It's frozen at 113, just like the clock. A low hum fills the truck. It's faint at first, like the engine's struggling. Then it grows deep, rhythmic. I cut the engine, but the hum doesn't stop. It's coming from outside, from somewhere beneath the rain. I roll the window down again and listen. The sound is low, steady, like a voice carried through water. Not quite words, but close. I lean out just a bit more, trying to hear. That's when I see it. The figure, standing in the middle of the highway this time. No movement, no reflection in the rain, just standing there. I blink and my headlights flicker. For a heartbeat, the figure disappears, then reappears closer. 10 feet closer. I slam the door shut, twist the ignition. The truck roars to life. The hum cuts off instantly, like it was never there. I floor it. Tires skid on wet asphalt, spraying mud and rain behind me. I don't look back, not once. But even as I speed away, the world around me doesn't change. The fog doesn't thin. The road doesn't curve. And every few seconds, lightning flashes, lighting up the same exact patch of highway, over and over. After a while, I start to notice something else. The mile markers aren't numbered anymore. They're blank. Just gray poles in the rain. The radio clicks on by itself. A burst of static fills the cabin, sharp and piercing. Then a voice, faint but clear. Keep driving. I freeze. It's my voice. The same tone, the same tired rasp. Don't stop, it says. Don't look back. The air turns heavy again, pressing down on me. My hands shake on the wheel. I reach for the radio knob, but before I touch it, the voice speaks again. You can't leave, not yet. The static swells, louder, angrier, like 100 whispers overlapping. I yank the cord out of the dash, but the sound doesn't stop. It's in the speakers, the vents, the air. I slam my palm on the horn, desperate to drown it out. The sound echoes through the fog, but instead of fading, it comes back. Not as an echo, as an answer. My horn blares again, only this time it's not me pressing it. My heart feels like it's tearing out of my chest. I grab my phone. No signal, just a blank screen and the time still frozen at 1:13. I look up, trying to focus on the road. And there it is again. The same figure. This time, standing right in front of me. I slam the brakes, but the truck slides on the slick asphalt, skidding sideways. My headlights wash over the figure, and for one terrible instant, I see its face. It's mine. Same eyes, same mouth, same bloodied cheek from the crash years ago. It opens its mouth, but the voice that comes out isn't mine anymore. You shouldn't have taken this road. The lights flicker, and the figure vanishes. When I open my eyes, I'm still sitting behind the wheel. The rain has stopped. The road ahead is dry. The clock reads 1:14 a.m. I take a slow breath, hands trembling. Maybe I dreamed it, maybe I drifted off. But as I drive forward, I see a mile marker on the shoulder. 37. Then another. And another. Each one darker, wetter, like the paint is fresh. And behind the hum of my tires, I swear I can still hear it. That low, patient whisper, repeating every few seconds. Keep driving. I didn't stop after that night. I told myself it was just exhaustion, a trick of the fog, but deep down, I knew something had followed me off that road. Still, I couldn't stay home. The silence there felt heavier than the rain ever did. So a week later, I went back. Highway 37, same route, same hour. The sky looked different this time, clearer at first. No fog, no rain, just an open stretch of blacktop under a full moon. It almost felt normal, almost. But the longer I drove, the more the quiet started to get to me. There's a kind of silence you feel in your chest, not your ears. It presses down, makes every little sound feel wrong. my tires on the asphalt, my own breathing, even the hum of the engine, it all felt out of place. I turned the radio on again, hopping for music or news, anything human. Static. Of course. That's when I saw them. Headlights. Two faint beams way out in the distance behind me. For the first time in hours, I felt relief. Someone else was out here, someone real. I slowed down a little to let them catch up. The lights stayed far away at first, steady, calm. Then they grew brighter fast, too fast. They were gaining on me like I was standing still. I gripped the wheel tighter. The light filled my mirrors, so bright it bled into everything. I couldn't even see the road ahead anymore. Then they vanished. Just gone. No sound, no skid, no passing car, just blackness again. My heart was pounding. I checked my mirrors, my blind spot. Nothing, not even a reflection. I told myself I'd imagined it. Maybe there was a dip in the road. Maybe they'd turned off. Anything to make it normal again. But a few minutes later, the lights came back. This time in front of me. They were far off at first, tiny specks floating above the horizon. I thought it was a car coming my way, maybe miles ahead. But as I drove, they didn't move. They just hung there. I blinked trying to focus, but they didn't grow brighter or dimmer, just stayed, perfectly still. And then I realized they weren't reflecting off anything. No road, no car, no shape. Just two orbs of light suspended in the dark. I slowed the truck to a crawl. My hands were slick with sweat. The road stretched out in front of me, empty except for those impossible lights. I should have turned around right there. I know that now. But I didn't. I eased the gas and kept moving forward. The headlights didn't budge. They stayed the same distance away, no matter how far I drove, like I was chasing something that wasn't really there. After a while, I started noticing movement on the sides of the road, shadows that didn't match my lights. At first it was subtle, just shapes flickering across the trees when there weren't any trees, then figures. They'd appear for a second, long enough for me to see the outline of a head, a shoulder, a hand reaching out, and then vanish again. Every time I blinked, there'd be another one closer to the shoulder. I told myself not to look directly, not to acknowledge them. But curiosity wins when fear runs out. I glanced toward the ditch as I passed one, and it looked right at me. Not with eyes because I couldn't see any, just this hollow space, darker than the rest of the dark, and I knew it saw me. The air inside the cab dropped like someone had opened a freezer. My breath fogged the glass. The smell of wet metal filled the truck again. I pressed harder on the gas. The speedometer climbed 60, 70, 80, but the road never changed. The same cracks in the pavement, the same curve to the right, the same puddle reflecting my own lights back at me. I wasn't moving. No matter how fast I went, I stayed in the same stretch of highway. The same shadows packing me on both sides. I slammed the brakes, tires screamed. The truck fishtailed, stopped dead in the middle of the road. Silence. And in that silence, I heard something new. Footsteps. Wet, slow, dragging footsteps. I turned off the engine and listened. They were coming from behind me. Step, step, step. I didn't dare look in the mirror. I just stared forward at the motionless lights ahead. The footsteps stopped. Then faint, muffled through the glass, I heard breathing. Right outside the driver's side door. I reached for the lock. It clicked just as something brushed the handle. I froze. The door didn't move, but in the side mirror something shifted, just enough for me to see it wasn't a person. It was a shadow. No body, no face, just the shape of one leaning close enough for its outline to shimmer in the mirror. And where the eyes should have been, there were two tiny glowing lights. The same lights from the road ahead. The same ones I'd been following. I squeezed my eyes shut. gripping the steering wheel like it was the only thing keeping me tethered. When I opened them again, everything was gone. The road ahead was empty, the lights were gone, the mirror was clear. I sat there shaking for a long time until I finally forced myself to start the truck again. The engine stuttered, then caught. As I drove, the night around me felt thicker, like the fog had returned without warning. I could barely see 5 feet in front of me. And that's when I noticed something I hadn't before. My own headlights weren't casting shadows. Nothing did. The trees, the signs, even my own hands on the wheel, they didn't have shadows anymore. It's a strange thing, realizing that light has stopped obeying the rules. I didn't know what to do, so I just kept driving. I don't know how long I drove like that. Maybe hours, maybe minutes. The fog made time useless. Eventually, I saw faint red lights up ahead, tail lights. A car. Finally, another car. I sped up trying to close the distance, but no matter how fast I went, it stayed just far enough ahead. Always out of reach. And then it started to slow down on its own. I could see the shape of it now, an old sedan, gray or maybe blue. The windows were dark. It rolled to a stop in the middle of the highway. No hazards, no signal, just stopped. I slowed to a crawl and flashed my brights. Nothing. I leaned out the window. Hey, you okay? No answer. I eased closer until I was right behind it. The license plate was coated in mud. The rain started again, light but steady. Then the driver's door opened. Someone stepped out. They were wearing a dark coat soaked through. Their head tilted slightly, like they were listening for something. For a moment, they just stood there, facing away. Then very slowly, they turned toward me. And my stomach dropped. Because it was me. Not a reflection, not a trick of light, it was me. Same jacket, same hair, same tired face. But their eyes were glowing faint red, like dying brake lights. They didn't speak. They just raised one hand and pointed back the way I came. Then everything went black. The next thing I remember, I was parked on the shoulder. The sky was gray, dawn breaking. My headlights were still on, cutting across an empty stretch of road. The clock on the dash read 1:13 a.m. My phone was dead. My odometer still read 113 miles. And there were no other cars anywhere. Only the faint outline of 2 distant headlights, hanging far ahead in the fog, waiting. I didn't chase them this time. I just sat there, listening to the rain. And for the first time since that night, I thought I heard something behind the static of it. A whisper. Soft, familiar. Keep driving. There's a kind of loneliness that eats at you. The kind that doesn't come from being alone, but from realizing you aren't supposed to be alone. That's what it felt like the night I picked up an invisible passenger. I'd gone back to Highway 37 again. I don't even know why anymore. Every time I told myself it would be the last. Every time I found an excuse, a delivery run, a test drive, something to keep me on that same cursed stretch of road. The air was dry that night, no rain this time. The sky was clear, but the moon felt too bright. It washed the world out, made everything look thinner somehow. I told myself I'd make it quick, just one last drive. I didn't even make it 10 miles before it started. It was the hum that caught my attention first. Faint, low, like the soft buzz of power lines. I thought it was the truck, maybe a bad bearing, something mechanical. But then it shifted. It wasn't a hum anymore. It was breathing. I froze, one hand still on the wheel. It came from my right, the passenger side. Slow, steady, human. I didn't look, I didn't dare. I told myself it was in my head, maybe my own breath echoing off the glass. I rolled the window down a crack. Cold air rushed in, sharp and dry, but the sound didn't stop. If anything, it grew clearer. A faint exhale, then a low whisper. I couldn't make out the words at first. just the rhythm of speech, like someone murmuring from the edge of sleep. You came back. That's what I thought I heard. The steering wheel slipped in my hands for a second. I gripped it tighter, eyes locked on the road. My pulse was hammering so hard I could feel it in my teeth. I told myself to say something, to break the silence, but my throat was dry. The whisper came again, closer this time. Why did you come back? The cabin went still. Even the sound of the tires seemed to fade. I forced a shaky laugh, though it sounded nothing like me. You're tired, I muttered, just tired. But then I felt it. The temperature in the cab dropped, not a little, like the heat had been sucked out of the air in a single breath. My breath came out white. My hands stiffened around the wheel. And the seat beside me, the passenger seat, creaked, like someone had just sat down. The sound was unmistakable, fabric shifting, springs adjusting to weight that wasn't there. I turned my head slowly. The seatbelt was pulled tight, as if stretched across an unseen body. I couldn't move, couldn't think. Then came another whisper, softer this time, right next to my ear. Keep driving. I slammed on the brakes. The truck fishtailed, tires screaming against the pavement before grinding to a stop. For a second, everything went quiet. The only sound was my breathing, rough, panicked. Then from the corner of my eye, I saw it. A faint depression in the passenger seat, not deep but real, the kind a person leaves when they lean forward. I opened my mouth to say something, anything, and the radio clicked on by itself. Static, then a voice. My voice. Keep driving. I stared at the dashboard. My radio light flickered like a pulse, in time with the whisper. I reached for the dial, but before I could touch it, the speaker hissed louder, then cut off. Silence. I sat there, gripping the steering wheel, staring at the empty seat. I don't know how long I stayed that way. A minute, an hour. Then, without warning, the truck lurched forward. The engine roared to life. My foot wasn't on the gas. The wheel turned itself slightly to the left, easing the truck back onto the center of the lane. The seat beside me groaned again, and the whisper came back, steady now, like someone having a conversation I couldn't quite follow. You left me, alone, miles and miles. I swallowed hard, forcing myself to speak. Who are you? Nothing. The whisper stopped. Then quietly, like a breath from a dying lung. You know. I shook my head. No, I don't. But I did. Deep down, I did. There had been an accident once, years ago. Not here, not this stretch, but not far. I was driving through a storm, running late on a night like this one. A car had skidded into my lane. I'd swerved. They hadn't. 2 people didn't walk away from that crash. And one of them was sitting beside me now. I could feel it, the shape of that guilt filling the truck, taking form in the fogged glass, in the creak of the seat, in the soft rasp of every breath that wasn't mine. I pressed my foot to the brake, trying to stop again. The pedal went straight to the floor, no resistance. The truck didn't slow down. The headlights stretched further ahead, illuminating the road like it was folding in on itself. Every mile marker read the same number, 13. 13, 13, 13. I couldn't tell if we were moving forward or backward anymore. The whisper came again, louder now. You should have stopped. I wanted to scream, but the words stuck in my throat. The passenger seatbelt snapped open on its own. The buckle swung toward the door and hit it once, click. Then again, like someone tapping a message. Let me out. I pulled the truck to the side of the road as best I could, throwing it into park even though the gear stick felt like it was fighting me. The air felt thick, cold, wet. I looked toward the seat one last time. The indentation was deeper now, so deep the cushion was nearly flat, and where the seat met the window, the glass was fogged over completely, except for 2 clear spots. Like eyes. I reached across the cab and wiped at the fog with my sleeve. My hand passed through freezing air, and when I pulled it back, my sleeve was damp. Condensation, I told myself. Just condensation. Then I saw something on the window. A smear, faint but visible, drawn into the fog from the inside. Letters. 3 words. You left me. The words bled into water streaks as I watched, fading but not disappearing. That's when I heard the door handle shift. The door opened halfway, slow, quiet. The dome light flickered on for a moment and then dimmed. Cold air poured in. And even though I couldn't see anyone, I heard the sound of footsteps stepping down onto the asphalt. 1, 2, 3. The door closed gently behind them. And then nothing. I sat there staring at the seat. The indentation was gone. The temperature rose. My breath stopped fogging the air. For the first time all night, I was alone again. Completely alone. I should have driven away then. I should have put that road behind me. But I didn't. Because when I finally turned the headlights back on and looked into the rearview mirror, there was someone standing in the red glow of my taillights. Still waiting. I blinked once and they were gone. Only the empty stretch of Highway 37 behind me. But when I checked the passenger seat again, there was something new there. A single wet handprint on the dashboard. Fingers pointed toward me. And the whisper, faint as breath on glass, came one last time. Keep driving. I don't even remember when I started driving that night. The road had swallowed time itself. All I knew was that I was supposed to be heading home. Home. That word used to mean something warm, my porch light glowing, the quiet hum of the fridge, maybe my dog wagging his tail at the door. But out there, on Highway 37, home started to feel like a story I'd made up just to have something to chase. The last thing I remembered before everything went wrong was the voice, that whisper that told me to keep driving. So I did. The sky never changed. No sunrise, no stars, no moon. Just a blank sheet of dark gray pressing down on everything. My headlights reached maybe 20 feet ahead, and then the light just died. Like the world stopped existing past that point. After a while, I started to see signs again. Small green ones on the right-hand side of the road, reflecting my beams. White letters. Welcome home. The first time I saw it, I thought it was a joke, one of those strange town markers out in the sticks. But then another came. Welcome home. Same size, same spot. Then another. And another. Each one spaced perfectly apart, identical in every way. Like the road was looping. I pressed the accelerator harder, pushing the truck faster. The engine growled under me, the steering wheel trembling. But every time I looked out, there it was again, that same green sign, glowing like a lie. Welcome home. I started laughing, not a happy kind of laugh, the kind that bursts out when your nerves finally snap. I told myself it was some weird trick of exhaustion, a mirage maybe. But then just as my laughter died, I saw lights ahead. Not headlights. Warm yellow ones. A house. For a second my chest ached with relief, the kind that makes your body tremble. I slowed the truck, gravel crunching under the tires, and pulled off to the shoulder. It was small, maybe 2 stories, white paint, a porch that sagged in the middle. There was a rocking chair swaying gently back and forth, though the air was still. And on the porch, a light. Just one. I left the engine running and stepped out. The night air hit me like a slap, colder than it should have been, heavy with that wet asphalt smell. The closer I got to the house, the quieter everything became. Even my footsteps seemed muffled. There was no wind, no insects, not even the soft tick of the engine cooling behind me. Only the sound of the rocking chair creaking. slow, rhythmic. Creak. Pause. Creak. When I reached the porch, I called out. Hello, my truck broke down. I need to use a phone. Nothing. The chair stopped moving. I waited, staring through the screen door. The light inside was dim, like it came from a single bulb, but I could make out the outline of a hallway, wallpaper curling off the walls, a staircase just beyond. The place looked wrong. Not ruined, not old, just empty, like a stage set after everyone's gone home. Still, I had nowhere else to go. The doorknob turned easily in my hand. Inside, it smelled like dust and rain-soaked wood. My boots echoed faintly on the floorboards. There were pictures on the wall, but the glass was fogged, and when I wiped at one with my sleeve, there was nothing behind it, just paper, blank, yellowed. I called out again, softer this time. Hello. The light above me flickered once, and from upstairs I heard something move. It wasn't footsteps exactly, more like the sound of weight shifting, wood groaning under it. I froze at the bottom of the stairs. Every instinct in my body told me to leave, to turn around, walk back out, get in the truck and drive until the tank ran dry. But something in me, something tired and stupid, wanted to know who lived there, who had built this place in the middle of nowhere, who had left the light on. I climbed. Each step let out a long, drawn-out creak. The air got colder as I went up, like I was climbing into a freezer. Halfway up, I noticed something. The walls weren't wood anymore. They were asphalt, dark cracked, the same texture as the highway. And under my boots, the sound wasn't wood creaking anymore. It was gravel crunching. I looked back. The stairs behind me were gone. Only the endless stretch of Highway 37 lay beneath me, lit by my headlights in the distance. I should have screamed, should have done something. But I just stood there, breath coming out in shaky white clouds. At the top of the stairs, or what should have been the top, I saw a doorway. Light spilled through it, warm and golden. I stepped toward it, my boots scraping asphalt. The light looked familiar. When I crossed the threshold, my heart stopped. It was my kitchen. The same cracked counter, the same crooked clock above the stove. But everything was too still. No hum from the fridge. No smell of coffee. The only thing moving was the curtain by the sink, fluttering from a breeze that didn't exist. I whispered my own name, like maybe saying it out loud would prove I was real. And then I heard a voice behind me. Soft, gentle. You made it home. I turned around. There was someone standing in the doorway. But it wasn't anyone I knew. Their shape was human, tall, thin, head tilted just slightly too far to one side. But their face looked like mine. Only wrong. Like a reflection seen through rippling water. The voice spoke again, perfectly calm. You shouldn't have come back. My mouth went dry. What is this? They smiled, a slow, trembling stretch that made my stomach twist. This is home, they said. It always was. I took a step back. My heel hit something, the corner of the kitchen table. And when I looked down, I realized the floor wasn't tile anymore. It was wet asphalt. The same black road stretching beneath everything. I could smell it, the oil, the burnt rubber, the faint metallic tang of blood. The air buzzed, like a power line vibrating inches above my head. When I looked up again, the figure was closer. Their eyes were hollow, empty. You never left, they whispered. Then everything went black. For a second I thought I'd passed out, but I could still hear the engine, low, steady, humming in my ears. When I opened my eyes, I was back in the truck. The seatbelt pressed tight across my chest, the wheel steady in my hands. And outside the window, the same road. The same mile marker. 13. I looked at the dashboard clock. It was blinking 12 o'clock, over and over. I turned on the radio, static. I rolled the window down, silence. I whispered to myself, just to hear something human. I made it home, and a voice from the passenger seat whispered back, "No, you didn't." I turned, but the seat was empty. Only the faint impression of a handprint on the fogged glass, the same way it had been before. I drove on, even though I knew it was useless. The road stretched endlessly forward, and when I passed the next green sign, I didn't even flinch. Welcome home. Because I understood now. On Highway 37, there's no destination. Only the drive. Only the endless hum of tires on a road that never ends. And if you ever find yourself out there, and you see that same sign glowing in your headlights, do yourself a favor. Don't stop. Don't look for home. Because if you find it, you'll never leave.